Thanks, Erika.
I couldn't choose the path, so I don't really know where.
I think it's directly on the cloud, and it will be registered somewhere, but accessible from the
Morning.
Good morning.
EPSC account or Planet account, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, I think we can start. We're just 31, but I think more will join soon. So good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Pecano Week. Thank you very much for your participation yesterday. It was very, very nice to see all of you so active and willing to share. So it was really, really nice. Thank you. Today we're going to talk about fundings, and we have some very useful talks. The first of the day is Charlotte Goods, and she's working at ESA. She won a fellowship at ESA. So today she will tell her experience, and probably she will give us some tips. I mean, if some of you want to apply for an ESA fellowship. So I will leave the space to her. You're free to share your screen, and if there are any technical issue, we will substitute the sharing.
Yes, thanks for the introduction. And I'm already running into the first difficulty because I'm not allowed as a participant to share my screen.
Okay, wait a second.
I will. Okay, you should be able to do.
Great, thank you. Perfect. Okay, you should be seeing a window.
Yes, it works.
And should still be seeing it, hopefully. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for inviting me to give a little introduction into what the research fellowship at ESA is. As you said, yes, I'm a research fellow at ESTEC in the Netherlands. It's basically our technology center. And I just want to point out in the title here, it says the Space Science Research Fellowship. This is because my talk is just about this type of research fellowship. And I just want to make sure that you don't get confused by the advertisements, because there's research fellowships coming out at ESA all the time. However, about half of them are the ones in the science directorate, which is where I am, so it's the space science. And then there's others that are in other directorates. So for example, HRE, which is human and robotic exploration, which could also be of interest to people here. And those are a little bit different. So just be careful. I might make some comments about those later. But this is mostly about the Science Research Fellowship. Okay, so what is the RF? So basically, this is a postdoc position. You will be hired for 2 years, and there's a process to extend the contract up until 3 years. If you want to do that, usually contracts get extended without issues, at least in the past couple of years. What's really nice about it is that you have lots of freedom in the kind of research that you will do. However, what's really necessary is some kind of connection to ESA. So you can't just work on a mission that doesn't have any ESA connection. You can't work on something that's purely
Sorry, Charlotte. Sorry to interrupt you. We're not seeing the full screen mode, so I don't know if you change the slide.
Are you not? Okay, let me see if I can. Ugh. You don't see the correct slide at all?
Yeah, because we're not in your presentation mode.
Okay.
In the first...
Yes, maybe because you share the wrong screen.
Yeah, you share probably a particular window, and it's not the
Yes.
presentation.
Okay, let me
Like play at the top. Is this
Uh,
play option at the top?
yeah. The problem is I tried to share it in another one. I don't know. Weird. Let's try this again. Do you see the
Okay,
screen
it's
now?
okay. It's okay.
Yeah, works now.
And now you see the
Okay,
next slide,
perfect.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I mean, you didn't miss much. So, yes. So again, you need some kind of connection to ESA. It doesn't matter really what it is on. The connection can be because you use data from a past mission, can be because you're preparing for a new upcoming mission, but there needs to be some kind of connection. Otherwise, your proposal will have not a very good chance to get accepted. I also want to say that there's no really age limit for this. You need to be early career still to apply for the research fellowship, but we do have people that are on their first postdoc, and we have people that are on their fourth postdoc. It's very flexible there. However, what's really important is that your PhD needs to be finished by the starting date. If you don't have a PhD by the time you start, you cannot start. They're quite kind of strict on that. So then what you can do once you have started is work on research 100% of your time. However, the point really of the research fellowship is to also do a couple things that are outside of research, which we call functional task, and this can be up to 15%, where you basically get involved in mission planning, mission operations, in some kind of outreach activity, anything really that you are interested in, and that's available at ESA. It always depends a little bit on what the scientists at ESA and the faculty are working at, but you can always find some ways to get involved. And when you apply for this fellowship, you need to choose between sites. I think now you list which one you prefer, but you don't have to you don't have to go to this one. But for example, I just listed ESTEC because I didn't want to go to Madrid, where ESAC is. Yeah, and you see I don't know if you see my cursor, but you see that this is ESTEC. We have a test center, which is quite exciting. We're usually allowed to just go in, and we have a centrifuge, which is also really cool. And then at ESAC, this is slightly outside of Madrid. You see, I think this is a 1-to-1 Gaia model. And then Baltimore, we also have mostly the James Webb stuff is done in Baltimore. And there I've never been to STSCI. However, I've been to Baltimore, and they have this really funky cafe, so it can only be good. Yes, so then you have to choose a mentor to go to ESA, and I know that this was mandatory previously. However, it is not mandatory now. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out how to stop the notifications popping up here. Yes, great. Okay, yes. So this was mandatory previously when I applied. It is not mandatory anymore, but I do recommend it highly. It's very important to have a contact point even if before you go to ESA. And you see here the two mentors that I have. Left is Olivier Vitas, who is the JUICE project scientist, and also involved with Mars Express stuff where I work. And on the right, you have two pictures of my main mentor, Matt Taylor, who used to be project scientist for Rosetta, is now a study scientist for Comet Interceptor. And basically, my recommendation is to look at this website that I've linked here. Just scroll down, see what kind of people work there, and maybe you know someone already. just choose someone that works on the topic that you're interested in and contact them and try to find out what kind of projects they're working on, if there's things that could benefit you. Just to try and get a conversation started as early as possible. It's really important for the quality of the application later on. This mentor, like, you don't have to spend every single time. It's not, it's not like a PhD advisor where you go back and forth between, like, you discuss every day or every week with them. It's more that they're there for you if you need advice. They can give scientific advice, but they're really busy and they don't usually do actively write papers or analyze data. So they're more there to facilitate your career than to be involved in your research. Yes, okay, I've already said this, but there are a lot of advantages to this position. Basically, if you want to, you have 100% of your time dedicated to your independent research. You choose what you want to do every single day. And this is really, I don't think you can do that anywhere else. It's an absolutely amazing environment if you want to learn about ESA, how space missions work, how technology preparations for space missions work, how operations works, how we prepare for missions, how we run missions. So if you're into that kind of stuff, then this is a really great position. It's also nice because, well, before the whole plague thing, there were a lot of local meetings at ESTEC just because, you know, payload meetings happen there all the time and you're there already, so you don't even have to go anywhere. You can just attend, listen in, learn, and take away a couple of experiences there. We do have a travel budget, hopefully, again, where you get 3 conferences, 2 member state conferences, so Europe mostly, and 1 abroad. And then you also get usually 2 research visits where you can just visit collaborators, mostly also within the member states. There is a budget to invite visitors, so if you've already used up your 2 research visits, you can also invite visitors. You can write a proposal for faculty research where you can have projects. For example, we've had projects on citizen science, on media cameras, everything. What I really like about this is that you also have really great research opportunities. This is the pictures that I show here is me at a Star Trek convention where we had an ESA stand and we promoted ESA science program. And these are really outreach opportunities that are hard to get anywhere else. You also have the option to supervise students and you get a really good salary. However, there are disadvantages. Only nationals of member states can apply. So if you're from the US, no luck there. And it's really difficult for people from overrepresented states. So if you Google ESA and overrepresented states, it gives you a list. And for example, I gave Italy and Spain. For you guys, it would be very difficult to get this position. But this is something you should really discuss with your mentor before you write an application already. There's no teaching opportunities. And one of the things that annoys me the most is that we do not get any pension coverage. We don't get any parental leave, and there is no unemployment insurance after your contract runs out. This is because ESA basically treats us as students for some reason, which is absolutely horrible. And we're fighting very hard to change that, but it probably won't change in the next 2 years. And the other disadvantage is very insular. There's probably no one else working on your topic, so be prepared to spend a lot of time in your office. However, well, if at the moment everything's online, so it's not too bad at the moment. Yes, so some tips for potential candidates. You should be really independent. As I said, it's an insular environment. No one else is working on your topic usually. So yeah, have collaborators. Be independent. Don't rely on having your supervisor there. Have a very clear idea of a project. and yeah, make sure that this project relates to ESA somehow. And one tip I have as well is look at your CV and compare it to what successful candidates for example, for tenure track professorships have, and compare and see what is missing. Like, are you missing teaching experience? Then this is not the position for you because you can't teach. Are you missing some technical skills that you could get from sitting in on operations meetings? Then yes, this is great. So just have a look at your CV and try and get it balanced. Okay, so for the application process, we don't have dates yet for this year, but the advertisements are usually out in September. And the deadline's usually in October. And then there is a horrible video interview in November. And if you advance to the last stage, there's an in-person interview in December with a jamboree, basically where all the candidates give a 10-minute presentation on their project and what they've been doing previously. And then the offer happens in February, so there's quite a gap between that. You usually start in September, but that's negotiable. If you want to start earlier or later, you know, you can just talk to HR once they've made an offer for you. You have to write a proposal. It needs a title and a purpose. And then you have to lay out why this topic is relevant and why you have to do it now. Bear in mind that people that read this are not experts in your field. So explain a little bit, give background. Why do you have to do this project at ESA, right? So why can't you do it anywhere else? Why do you have to be at ESA at this point in time? And also, what is the relevance for ESA? Like, what do they get out of hiring you? Does that help a mission? Does that exploit data that has been previously unexploited from an ESA mission and so on? So really try and get a connection there. And also lay out why you are the perfect person to do this and no one else can do it. Yes, and then obviously there follows a publication list. So these are my personal tips. Other people might have other tips, but so yeah, please contact a potential mentor in advance. This is very important just because you need to discuss a little bit on what a good topic would be, iterate, and get a feel of if this would be a good position for you or not. Definitely contact one of the current RFs or previous RF for tips. It's super important because this position is a little bit different from a normal postdoc, and there are specifics that you should hit in the application. Get people to proofread. Yes, I mean, this is always. Yeah, explain background. So basically what I did in my application was I started with a background for the non-expert audience, where I explained a little bit on what I'm doing in not super complicated terms. And then when I go into the project description later, I go a little bit more into the depths of the science that I want to do, the challenges, that I'm aware of the challenges and I know how to resolve them. So this really targets the people that are experts in your field. Yes, I already said that. Link to big science questions and missions at ESA. So look at what ESA does, what the mission does that you want to work on, and show that your skills are relevant and necessary for the project. Definitely include figures and sketches. They're always helpful, and include a timetable. So what I would do is you make a timetable for 2 years and then add optional tasks for the 3rd year, just because it's an extension technically, even if it's mostly granted. Yes, and then for the jamboree in the interview, if you get invited to that, yeah, bear in mind that this is a general science audience. So I work on plasma at comets, but there's people working on astrophysics there. So you really need to start with a basic introduction. Practice an elevator pitch for your project. In the interview, you won't have much time to explain it. So one of the questions that they asked me was explain to my 14-year-old cousin what the goal of a project is, why we should do it. Right. So this is, yeah, targeting at how good you can explain in easy language. And definitely look at what ESA does outside of your own field and know ESA as an organization. So there's presentations out there that tell you things. I had a question about, well, how do you explain to someone that we spend billions on space missions when they're on basic support and can't afford to, I don't know, travel or something, right? So it's these kinds of questions, because ESA as an organization thinks they're really inspirational, and they want RFs to represent that. Also prepare for some HR questions. There's always some like, oh, what are your biggest strengths and what are your biggest weaknesses, and so on. So do prepare for those. Yes, and this is my last slide. I think I've been going on too long, sorry. But yeah, so I just linked these the websites where you find more information on the research fellowship. Then this, the STEC side, the ESAC side. Don't have one for Baltimore, but do keep in mind if you, I mean, working on JWST, Baltimore is a good option. And yeah, just find a research fellow on Twitter. Many of us have an account there, or just go to this and yeah, look for a research fellow that works in a similar field. Send them an email. I'm not the only one. You're welcome to send me an email. You're welcome to contact me on Twitter. But yeah, just try and get as much information as possible before you even start on the writing the application, just to find out if this is the correct place for you. And with that, I'll stop. And yeah, I don't know if we do questions now or later.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. Thank you, Charlotte. If you have questions, please write them down, because we will have an open discussion after the coffee break, and you can ask all the questions you want and we can discuss together with the speakers. Yeah, we are a bit late on the schedule now, so please keep the questions for the open discussion. And yeah, we can move on for the next talk. It's about the Marie Curie fellowship, and Anna Cernok, who is actually also an IPEC member, will talk about this opportunity, and also she updated the presentation because some terms of this fellowship changed recently. So thank you very much, Anna, and I let you share your screen. And
thanks. Good morning, everybody. I hope I do that task quickly. Let's see if I do this and I go to the full. Oh, you have to let me share. Just a moment. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not in the.
Not full
Not
screen.
in full screen, but we are.
Now. Is it
yeah.
full
Yes,
screen now?
it's okay.
Yeah.
Now it's okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And I'm not going to help with running late because, as Erica mentioned, a couple of things changed. The world crashed in 2020, as you know, and another project came to an end in Europe, which is the big Horizon 2020 project. And that influences many of the European funding schemes, including Marie Curie. So I'm presenting you this because I was a Marie Curie Fellow a while ago. I was awarded in 2016 and I finished in 2018. I was at the Open University dealing with Apollo samples mostly, and I'm still affiliated with the university. So it was a very, very productive time for me. I love the fellowship. And I include a lot of wording and text on these slides because I thought it may be useful for you later on to come back to the presentation, because anyone who has dealt with the European Commission websites knows that one of the biggest challenges is to find things and links. So I tried to do you a favor there. For those who are not aware of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, it is one of the most significant funding schemes for early career scientists in Europe. And the budget was around 300 million in 2020. Now this scheme, Marie Curie Actions, is a part of the bigger thing. It is called Horizon Europe now. It just started in this year and it's gonna go until 2027. And you may previously known these funding periods of the European Commission as Horizon 20, FP7, and so on. They change every 6 to 8 years, depending on the commission. And the budget for Horizon Europe, Europe is huge, is about 90 billion. This may have changed because of the COVID, but it's always increasing in Europe. Regardless of what has changed in terms of dates and term names and so on, the Marie Curie Fellowship that we are here mostly interested in is always dealt from the European Commission and this agency, European Research Executive Agency. I'm just bringing the term there because that's whom you will be talking to, and in the case you get it, dealing your contracts and paperwork with. I provide a website where you can find all these general information. Now, the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions actually include several funding schemes, and I'm not going to talk about all of them. You can see a table here. It says on the left, Horizon 2020. This is how things were called in the previous call. And now we are in the Horizon Europe on the right-hand side, and you can see that things changed. Again, I'm just bringing these names because it's very important to get familiar with European terms so you can navigate more easily through your application process and so on. And what we will be focusing here on is just one of the Marie Curie actions, which is the fellowship. It was previously called the Individual Fellowship, IF, if you came across that acronym, and now it will be called Postdoctoral Fellowship, EF. Regardless of the names, Europe loves changing names, but the objectives of this program, as of all of the Marie Curie actions, is to boost excellence. So you will have to propose excellent science case. To allow you mobility, you will have to change the country very likely to where you are, unless you spend less than 12 months in the last 3 years at the country where you are now. And you can move between Europe or an associate member state, or you can ask to go out of Europe for some time. Your research has to be open to the world, it has to be very inclusive, it has to involve a lot of outreach activities and so on. And it will provide you with excellent teaching and mentorship and lead you to your research independence. So all these are objectives of the Marie Curie actions. And I'm moving to the websites of the postdoctoral fellowship, where you will find most of the information needed for the applications. If I can just ask the question, I'm not seeing the hands of the participants, but how many of you are thinking of applying this year? If somebody can transfer the information. 5, 10 people, nobody? 1? Okay, 1, am I seeing correctly? Okay, a bit more. Okay, so for those of you, I have made these slides technical because, as I mentioned, it is difficult to navigate through these systems. And when you go to this main website of the postdoctoral fellowship, I provide a link for you. You will see that the call has not opened yet, which is unusual because calls usually open in April. We are very late this year because we have changed to the Horizon Europe. And the deadline will move this year to October. Usually it is in September. I don't know about the next year and so on, but we are a little bit late this year. So for those of you who want to apply, please refresh this page every day now because it says that the call is supposed to open in June, any day now. There are 2 types of these fellowships. One is really dominant. It is the European postdoctoral fellowship, where the European students want to stay within Europe, but change the country according to the mobility rule. Or some people ask for global postdoctoral fellowships where they spend the last year of the 2 or 3 year fellowship abroad. So the global fellowships can be longer, they can be 3 years. Both of these kinds of fellowships may include a secondment if you like to have one, so to go to another institution, have intense collaboration with them, but you need to justify that in your proposal. And if I'm correct, there is a new addition to the fellowship that you can ask for an industrial placement. So a placement in a non-academic sector for up to 6 months will be extra time to your fellowship. Should I continue? Hearing some, okay. The requirements to apply for the fellowship have slightly changed. It has changed that at the time of the deadline, you should already have the PhD. It seems to be like the ESA fellowship now. It used to be that you need 4 years of research experience. So if your master thesis was long or you worked as a research assistant somewhere, you were also eligible. You used to be eligible. But now you really have to have your PhD at the time of the submission. If you are in the process of doing the final defense or so on, it seems that you will be eligible as well, but your PhD must have been in your final stage. There is another limitation now that you may not be beyond the 8th year of your PhD, which I think all of you here are basically not, you're not above this year, because I think the EPIC is 7 years after the PhD. But be aware of that. There used to be no limitation in the age. Now there is no age limitation, but you need to have maximum of 8 years of professional research experience. And as I mentioned, it is absolutely necessary to have the mobility rules comply with your situation. You have to move to another country or to apply for the country where you have not resided more than 12 months in the last 3 years. So watch for these requirements. The funding in the European Commission in general, but specifically for the fellowships of the Marie Curie, is good. You will be covered for everything. This includes a living allowance, a mobility allowance, and if you have family, you will be receiving an extra budget. The fellowship comes as a lump sum, and then the European Commission transfers it to your host institution. And if you like the figures, I think mine was about, in total, for the salary, for research, for everything, travel and so on, about 180,000 euros for 2 years. Now, it's very good for traveling and it's very good for salary. And if I may use what Charlotte brought up regarding the ESA fellowship, in this case, you are insured, you're properly employed. There is a parental maternity leave, there is a pension and all the social benefits, healthcare and so on. And the salary on the top of that is still good. But what is lacking, if you are doing a sample-based science, if you need to pay your time for maybe telescopes or lab access, you might be running short because these are expensive treats. In my case, science was 2,000 euros a day. So there was no way I could afford from, I think the budget for research and travel was 20,000 out of the 180,000. So it's by no means enough to do proper science. You have to negotiate that before with your host institution and your collaborators and tell them that you may not be able to basically pay the access in full. They will either need to find some funds or, they just live in a celebrity of the Marie Curie fellowship and just use it for their show off. Another issue you may encounter is the publishing costs. The fellowship is short, so you may expect to publish things towards the end or beyond your fellowship. And if you see some of the top journals nowadays, you're looking at costs between 2,000 and 10,000 euros for publication. If your host institutions cannot cover this, you have to start talking to people and understand how you will be covering for this publication cost. Usually institutions cover this, no problem, but you should bring this topic up early in advance. And moreover, once your fellowship is finished, you don't have any access to the funds anymore, or even if you have some money left. So you may, if you have some money left, leave it to the institution and then they can use it for some publications and so on. The way to apply for it is here on this website that I'm showing. And you will have to refresh this page and the funding and tender opportunities page, which I highlighted, and see when the call opens. But before that, try to get in touch with the host institution. Try to find the person you want to work with, and try to gather as many the proposals you can, successful and not successful, just to get an idea of how things look like. Once the call opens, they will suggest templates. I don't know if they will look any different than what they used to look, but I'm pretty sure the content will be similar. So yes, this is just find a host organization and talk to them if they have experience in arranging the Marie Curie fellowship applications. The thing is, you will not be the person submitting the fellowship, the proposal. Your host institution will be. So it is better if they are, first of all, prepared in time. If they don't have any experience, they will have to organize themselves in how to do it. Nowadays, most institutions have had some Marie Curie fellows, and they will know how to do it. And because the number of the Marie Curie applications is increasing at a huge rate, it is a 17% increase from the last year, the institutions have introduced something new now, and there is this thing called expression of interest. So although the call is not open yet for this year, I have seen some universities have already closed the possibility to express your interest in applying for the Marie Curie, because they have such huge numbers of applications and they cannot support everybody. So they basically have a pre-selection stage where they say, oh, we like this, we will support you, and no, we cannot support the rest, and so on. So if you had in mind to apply this year, please check with those institutions right away if they're still willing to accept and support new applicants. Yeah, it's getting, the numbers are rising. If in case of doubt, every country, the country where you are, the country where you want to go has its national contact points. They're really helpful and they know the way through the admin. So by all means, do contact them if you need any help. Regarding the proposal itself, come up with a good acronym, good title, and the acronym. The acronyms are necessary in most European, especially Marie Curie action applications. So I spent some time with my host and we came up with the acronym RESOLVE, and we put a little moon instead of the O, as you can see, and so on. If you have time, you will probably have a chance to be creative as well. The proposal itself in the Marie Curie is famous because it's rigid. You have a part A and part B. Part A is a lot of online forms that you and your institution have to fill in. What I'm talking about here is the part B, is the proposal itself. So the core of this proposal is the famous 10 pages of the Marie Curie that you cannot exceed by any means, and 10 pages to include the wording on the excellence of your science case, the impact of it, and the implementation, that means on how you will do it, is short. So you better get used to you better check some proposals and pick up the ideas you like, pick up the tips on how to make things shorter and readable and clear. Is useful. So this is the core, the 10 pages. And then there is the rest of the proposal, of this part B of the proposal, that includes your CV, the capacity of the host institution, the CV of the host, the ethical aspects, and so on, that the institution and your supervisor will, or your host will need to give you a hand with. You cannot do this yourself. Few tips about how to write a good proposal. Well, as I said, it contains three aspects. It is the excellence, the impact, and the implementation. And really, when it comes to science, it is this excellence part. And I think, if I have to remember now, that it was not longer than 3 pages in total of the proposal. So in those 3 pages, you have to explain your case. You have to give the background. You have to give the up-to-date, and the cutting edge of why that frontier in science is important. And And to do that, you really need to understand what is it you want to do. Find a topic that is really close to your heart, because those proposals are the best to write. You know straight why you want to do it, and it will be easy to find the wording around it and how to do it. You need to find, as mentioned, you need to find the host that is suitable for that task, and the supervisor or a host or a mentor, manager, depends how you call the person you will be working with. And this relation should go two ways. You need to find somebody whom you can do the topic with, but you need to bring them something, so some skills that they probably lack, and you need to learn something that they have and you don't. I can give you an example. It may work for you, may not work for you. When I did my PhD, it was mostly in experimental crystallography, slightly dealing with material science, and I really wanted to learn about the moon. There was no obvious connection between the two fields, but I implemented my structural analysis of materials into their expertise of studying materials geochemically. And this was a good match. So something like that into relation is really important. Think about the mobility rule. So you will have to go elsewhere. And here I show that I moved, this basically is where I grew up and worked. But I moved from Germany to UK, which complies with the mobility rule. And I only stayed in the UK. I didn't ask for any secondments. I didn't need to, but I had a wealth of collaborations that were supported by the fellowship. If you have time and you have a person in mind, try to reach out to them as soon as possible and maybe brainstorm your ideas. In my case, I spent about 2 weeks discussing this with my future host. It was Mahesh Anand at the Open University. And it really helped. I think this was the crucial part of the successful application. I came there, my knowledge about the moon was really poor. And we started drafting some ideas. I had to go through tons of, most recent papers, classical papers, and so on. But in 2 weeks, we came to a more coherent, you see how the writing and the style and the structure of this text and write is way better. So in about 2 weeks, we came up with the idea, with the focus of the project. And that really helped me write the proposal. I think in the end, it took 2 or 3 weeks to write the piece itself. That doesn't mean you should start 3 weeks before the deadline, of course. When you think about the impact of your proposal, this will be where you suggest your outreach activities, how you can affect the society, the community, and so on. And I'm just giving you a few examples that were in my proposal. One was to do a workshop in planetary science, and this was supported in the end by Europlanet. In Eastern Europe, this is where I come from, I'm from Serbia, and try really boost this sort of science in the area, in the Balkans, where the science is not that developed. And another big activity that I had was Moon Night. It's still ongoing at the Open University, and this was to reach out to local schools. We had about 250 kids from the local schools, and I think the numbers are now increasing. And because it was the 45th anniversary of Apollo 17, we always find a theme. It doesn't matter, the big thing doesn't matter. Now always happens in December. But the kids really came, and now they're used to it, and they enjoy and they like the event. These are just some examples. And regarding the implementation, as Charlotte said, have a timetable. This is requested though in the Marie Curie proposal. Many things are requested in the proposal. You don't have a way around it, but you can find a way to be more creative. I'm showing you how my Gantt chart looked like, the different colors, and then these colors match different parts of the proposal, different objectives of the proposal, and so on. So you may use this an example of how you can organize things, because you don't have enough space, so you want to use last words to explain more things. So this was a helpful way of doing it. And the last 4 aspects which I mentioned is the CVs of you and your host, of the institution, and so on. And you will really need help with this. So make sure to leave enough time. If your host is very organized and he knows how to deal with these things, he will be very helpful, but it's not always the case and they don't always have time. So make sure that you have connection to the host institution, HR, and management team to help you with these things. And one other thing that was not mentioned in the proposal, but was really helpful in my case, is to collect the letters of support from your collaborators in advance and put them in the proposal, because this doesn't count towards the page limit. This was not requested before, but it was a very nice addition to my proposal. And then there will be a deadline and you will be going crazy and you will have 1,000 final versions. Give it a few days before the actual deadline so that the institution can upload it. You can always change things till the very last moment, but do have everything uploaded a few days in advance. I'm pretty sure you know how things can crash on the last day, the system gets overcrowded, and so on. Once submitted, it will be about 5 months that it takes for them to get back to you. Please bear in mind that it's still a very competitive scheme. Last year, about 11,500 people applied, which is a 17% increase from the year 2020. Although the percent of the successful projects increased, when I did it, it was about 8–9%. I think I see now that it's about 14%. And there is this cut at about 85%. So if you score more than 85% with your proposal, but they don't have the money to fund you, usually the funding cut is about 92–93%. This may change. These are just speculative numbers that I saw and was in my case. But if you score between 85 and 92, they don't have money to fund you, they will give you the seal of excellence. And about 25% of the submitted proposals got this seal of excellence. This can be then very helpful with other schemes. For example, many countries have the deal that if you get a seal of excellence, but don't get funded with the Marie Curie, you get a fellowship in your home country. Check that. Many countries have that support, or many organizations have that support. It is a good thing to have the seal of excellence. And if you don't get it, don't despair. You can always try again and again. There is no limit on how many times you try. I know many people who tried several times. They didn't get it the first time. I also know many people who got it several times because it's so good. They wanted to do several Marie Curies. And honestly, it is very good. You gain your research independence through that. So this was my first postdoc, and it was a completely new topic for me. I loved it. It was, I gained a lot of independence, but I also had a very good supervisor, host Mahesh, and the time was very productive, and we still publish from this time. I created a lot of collaborations that are still part of my research portfolio. And it gave me the opportunity to learn things that I would not have probably had a chance to do through a regular postdoc. So it's not that easy to get to a postdoc where you have low experience level in that particular topic. I learned a lot about project writing and project management because you will have to deal with your own finances with a lot of support from the host institution. You will have to write reports for the European Commission, which is very helpful. If you stay in Europe, you will sooner or later encounter European administration. I think it is a very good experience overall. And I just shared this survey results that the Marie Curie Fellows rated their placement as very satisfactory, which is not always the case in academia and in broad academic surveys. So I really encourage you to try because it's very good on many levels. And with that, I can just wish you good luck. And if you want to reach out, feel free to do so. I have shared my proposal many times and I would be happy to help you with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you. Very useful and stimulating. Please, if you have any question, write it down and we will have time after the coffee break to ask questions to Anna too. Now let's move on to Damien Turpin, who is going to talk about the CNES Fellowship, which is a French fellowship. Damien?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning. So
Good
I'll leave you
morning.
share the screen. Perfect. Thank you.
Can you see my slides in full screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So hi, everybody. Happy to meet you all here this morning. So I was asked to make a talk about postdoctoral research grants provided by CNES, the French National Space Agency. I am currently in my second year of CNES fellowship that I will finish by the end of this year. And I'm doing this fellowship at the astrophysical department of CA at Saclay near Paris. So as you can see on my mail address, I don't have any CNES address. I have a CA address, which is my host laboratory mailing address. I will explain you later why. So I just have three parts. I will just go through very general information, and then I will try to go deeper in details and to give you some concrete facts and numbers I have from my own experience of the CNES fellowship. So CNES in a nutshell. So for people who are not aware about what is CNES, so this is in French, this is the Centre National d'Études Spatiales. This is the French government space agency that is responsible for shaping and implementing the France policy in France, but also in Europe. So CNES is a very important partner of ESA as a national space agency. CNES is divided in four main sites, so mainly in France, with two buildings mainly dedicated for let's say administrative tasks. So you have the headquarters of CNES in Paris, at Les Halles, for those who know Paris. You have also another building in Paris dedicated to the launcher directorate, and you also have two space center, one in Toulouse for space operation, and one in Guyana. And as you know, probably this is the main site for Europe spaceport. This is in Kourou in the French Guyana. Unfortunately, probably if you apply to the CNES postdoc grants, you will not work on this very nice site, as you have to choose actually a host laboratory for your fellowship. But anyway, at least you know where CNES is. So there are many different topics covered by CNES, from universe science to atmospheric and ocean science, and also for launchers. Here I just list some different subgroups that are, let's say, grouped into the universe science, microgravity, and exploration. I think these are the subgroups you will be interested in applying for a postdoc position. You have here the list of the subgroups, and here also the names of the people that are at the head of these groups and will be your scientific supervisor at CNES. So from my side, I'm working on extragalactic science, so I'm not working at all on planetary science. So when I did my application, I just point out to my application to astronomy and astrophysics subgroup. So this is my scientific domain. I hope that everything I'm going to tell you today is applicable to all the subgroups. I think the rules for applying for the CNES postdocs are the same for all subgroups, but maybe they could have some subtle differences between the subgroups. So I strongly encourage you to, before applying to the CNES postdoc grants, to send a mail to these people if you have any specific questions, to be sure that you will not miss any important information. I guess for you guys, the subgroups you will apply for will be solar system, exobiology, exoplanets, and astronomy and astrophysics, but I'm not sure. So this is probably your what you will target for your postdoc position. Okay, let's go through the postdoc grants itself, how it consists of. Well, So every year, CNES is providing around 30 postdoctoral grants. So it includes all these different groups. So it is split into these different subgroups. So you will have such a number in astronomy, astrophysics, etc., etc. And the goal of these grants is actually to really promote the to hire young researchers, and I really point out the fact that they want to hire young researchers because they bet on the future. They would like you to be their future collaborator in academic institutes. So they hope you to apply later on the CNRS application for a permanent position in France or in industrial establishments. So this is really focused on young researchers and also focused on topics that are related to space programs that CNES is involved in. By young researchers, I don't have any precise number to give you. I would say that if you are 6 years after your PhD, maybe you have less chance to get this funding. For my side, it was my second postdoc, so it was like 2 years after my PhD. So I guess they still consider me as a young researcher, which I'm happy about this. So the contract duration, sorry, it's a 2 years contract, but actually it's 1 year plus 1 year. But no worries, it's pretty easy to have the 1 year renewable for the CNES postdoc. You must do your postdoc in a research lab or in industry. So for industrial establishment, I don't know any CNES postdoc that are in this case, but I guess it is possible to do it, but I have no information about this. I mainly know people that made their postdoc on research lab. So this means that you will not work in the CNES buildings. So you will work on the host laboratory. So this means that you have to discuss before applying to this CNES position. You have to talk with people you would like to work with. And it is very important to build your research proposal with these people. The application period, as far as I remember, it's in January or February, but end of January. And you will make your application online on the CNES website. So you have the URL here. So you can click on this and you will be redirected to the CNES postdoc information on how to apply on it. So it's a two-step procedure for applying to the CNES postdoc grants. So first you write a research proposal actually, and you submit it online in the CNES postdoc platform. So you have here the link to make this. And then if CNES selects your application, you are then shortlisted and you will be auditioned by a CNES exam board. That include your CNES scientific supervisors, so the people that are driving the science in the different subgroups of CNES thematics. There will be CNES human resources people and also few CNES experts of your domain. It can be some researchers they pick up in different labs, or it can be CNES people also. And it's usually 10 minutes of presentation and roughly 5 minutes of questions. So for your application online, these are the material you have to send in one file. This is pretty light. The application form is pretty light. You need to give a detailed CV with your academic backgrounds. One reference letter from your PhD supervisor. This is important. So this means that you have to finish your PhD before, you also have to finish your PhD before applying to a CNES postdoc. You need one reference letter from your future lab director. So this is not your host lab scientific supervisor. This is really the director of the lab. So this means that you really need to discuss before with the people you want to work with in your host laboratory you may have to make an interview with the lab director or something like that. So this is really important because this person will provide the reference letter for you. But usually they are happy to have a new hire in their lab, so they will be nice with you. So of course you need one list of publications on communications at conferences and our seminar, and you need to describe the thesis work you did. From my experience, so the content and the length of this application for the thesis work and for the description of your postdoc proposal is pretty free. But from my experience, they do not expect very long application documents. So from my experience, you need to describe your thesis work in, let's say, 2 to 3 pages. And your research proposal has to be, let's say, explained in 5 pages, not including the bibliography, of course. This is from my experience, but this is not a strict rule, but this is from my experience. Now, behind the scenes, from my personal experience, so about the choice of your host laboratory, I'm going to talk about the astronomy and astrophysics section because I don't know if there are some subtle rules that are not applicable to, let's say, solar system groups or something like that. But it seems that it is not a good idea to apply for a CNES fellowship in your former PhD lab, which is what I did at the beginning. And so I realized some people told me that I would probably be just eliminated in the first selection process step just because of this. And it seems that afterwards I realized that some of the CNES postdocs managed to go into their former PhD lab. So I don't really know what is the rule, but I asked the supervisor at that time when I applied for this, the CNES supervisor, and he told me that it is not a good idea to do this because they want to promote, they want you to explore new horizons and working environments. So they want you to work with different teams, and they want you to be out of your comfortable area, let's say. So check these things with your CNES supervisor before making your final choice for your host laboratory. It's very important. The choice of your host laboratory is very important. About the choice of your postdoc project, so of course, this is very important to favor science with space programs or any instrumentation that should be integrated into space missions. So CNES rarely funds scientific projects that are only based on ground-based facilities. So if you want to make a postdoc position, let's say based only on how will you use some ESO telescopes or some ground-based facilities to make my research project with any link with space, probably you will not be selected. Because CNES is really funding things related to space programs they are involved in. So really try to include some space in your proposal. Also, I think it's interesting to look at the space projects where CNES is involved in. So either it's a NASA, CNES, well, CNES is involved in, or if CNES is involved in a NASA mission, or if it's just a CNES project or whatever CNES something. But really, I think it's really important for them that you make some proposal related to some CNES project or some project that CNES could be involved in the future. So from my side, what I did I did my proposal. I applied to the CNES postdoc in 2019, and so just to give you the rough subject I wanted to explore during my research project, my postdoc project. I wanted to build a pipeline dedicated to the analysis of future data coming from the SVOM mission. So the SVOM mission is the mission I'm working on now, and it is a CNES and CNSA. CNSA is the National Space Agency of China, and this is a partnership between CNES and CNSA. This mission, and it is a very important mission for CNES actually. So that's why I targeted my fellowship on this, and this mission will be launched by the end of 2022. So I was expecting that the position will be open in university recruitment or in CNRS or in astronomy or CNAP for people who know this position in France, because this is a very important mission for CNES. I propose something also to analyze data related to the objects I'm studying right now, so gamma bursts, which is the main astrophysical target of this one mission. So of course it makes sense. And also I opened something about gravitational follow-ups that will be also an important subject of the SWAM mission to make some target of opportunity program with the SWAM satellite. So all these subjects are really important for this mission, so this SWAM mission, and this mission is important for CNES. So I think it was one of the main points that make them select me at the end. So my host lab, as I said before, I chose IRAP. So this was my PhD lab in Toulouse. It was my first choice, but then I realized that it was not a good idea to be selected. So then I chose the lab I'm working on right now, which is the lab that is PI of this mission in France. So that's why I chose also this lab. Okay, so for the CNES audition, you have a presentation of 10 minutes. So just to give you a rough idea of what it consists of, it's you have to introduce your academic background, who you are, and something like that. You have to describe in very few slides your research project, how it is important for scientifically speaking, how it is important also for CNES to be involved in these kind of things. You have to say a word also about your perspectives, your personal perspectives, and how you see your future in the research or in industrial domains. It is very important for them. And one of the questions they ask me is that, do you want to be a CNRS or university researcher in France? And they ask me if it was my final goal. So if you answer no, probably you are dead. So answer yes to this question. And but this is really important for them because they really bet on the future and they really want you to be the future scientific collaborators with CNES. So that's why they ask these kind of questions. Okay, some concrete facts and numbers. So I will really go into very concrete things. So the contract. So the contract is seen with your postdoc contract is seen with CNES. So not with your host laboratory. So you are really a CNES employee. And as a CNES employee, you have a status, which is what I managed to translate. It is a secondary non-permanent staff. You are a non-permanent staff working outside the CNES buildings. And so your rights as an employee with this status are, well, it is determined by this status in CNES. So you sign for 1 year contract, and then you will have a new contract for the next year. So this is 2 years, and you cannot have well, as far as understood, you can't have a third year renewable. It is possible to ask for 3 months, 4 months of extension at the end of your second year, but you have to justify it very carefully. You have some duties to do regarding CNES. I will detail this later. And you can also easily negotiate the starting date of your postdoc. Really, actually, normally it usually starts on October 1st. But it's pretty easy. They are not. It's pretty easy to say, oh, okay, actually, I want to start on December 1st or something like that. Me, I started on November 1st, and I know some people that started even on January 1st. So, but usually they start on the first day of each month. Okay, so you have some rights and some advantages with this contract. According to me, this is what I just listed. Maybe it's not something very exhaustive list, but so CNES is taking in charge almost of the fees of your public transport card, which is very good in Paris region. Your salary includes also the CNES health insurance. This is mandatory. You have to take it, but which is very good to me. You have access to the CNES, I don't know how to say this, comité d'entreprise, but you have access to a lot of advantages related to the CNES or to the CNES company, I would say. So you are very free to conduct your research as you like. Actually, they really trust your scientific supervisor and your host lab to well supervise your work, or they really trust him and you. So you are really free to make your research, which is very good for a fellowship actually. Your holidays are managed by the postdoc CNES Human Resources, so you do not depend on the host lab for this kind of things. So there is no mix with the host lab tools and rules for these kind of things. And you have a 13 months of salary and a CNES annual release, which is pretty good. Some drawbacks for the contract. They do not allow you to make remote work officially. Of course, with the COVID-19 pandemic, and the rules have changed, but exceptionally, which is, for me, I find it's not really suitable for researchers to not allow remote work. It seems strange to me. You have no access to reduction in working hours, holidays, I would say. I don't know how to say it really in English, but which at the end makes you have 25 days of vacation days. Well, I say it's a drawback because maybe for me it's a drawback, but maybe not for all of you. The salary is not very super attractive actually. So this is the number I can give you right now in 2021. Especially me, I did a previous postdoc program in China, so which is the CAS-PI5 program, and where I could earn much more money than the, well, which is to me much more comparable to other postdoc programs, but I'm not sure about this. But anyway, at the end, this the CNES postdoc salary is not that good, especially if you live in the Paris region, which is very expensive, the life cost. And also a very bad point, CNES does not provide any support for traveling, for if you need a computer. So you really have to rely on your host lab for this kind of things. So for funding your conferences, traveling, or for funding a computer. And so you depend on the project you belong to. And I think to me, it's pretty unequal from a CNES postdoc to another one to at least not have a conference paid at least once per year, especially knowing that they want to promote people to be hired in the future as a permanent staff in academic positions. So it's very important to go to conferences. Okay, you have very few duties. So the first duty you have regarding CNES is to make science, of course, but as you like, so which is very good. You have to provide 2 annual reports for your activities to CNES. So each report must be provided like 7 to 9 months after your first your starting date of each of your contract. And this is mandatory. If you don't provide any report, CNES will not renew your second year of contract. So you have to make it, but it is very light. It's not very hard task to do. You have to attend the CNES days for the young researchers. It's 2 social events, 1 per contract year, so lasting roughly a week. Unfortunately for me, it was completely virtual, so we made it on. It was not Zoom, so it was we made it on Zoom. This is really to build professional link with other CNES postdoc, PhD, CNES staff, and partners, so where everybody meets in the same week and discuss about their project and etc. etc. So I think it's good. It's a good initiative of CNES to organize this. You have to respond to the CNES invitation at the International Paris Air Show, which is not very hard duty actually. To meet industrial partners of CNES in astronautics and aeronautics. And you are invited to this, so this is pretty good. There are no teaching duties, but you can teach if you want. There is no thing in the contract saying how to put it way. And I will finish on this slide. So to summarize a bit this fellowship at CNES. So the research fellowship is really has to be made in the host laboratory or an industrial company. I have no example in an industrial company, but I guess it's really possible to do it depending on the subgroups you are belonging too. If you make things about launchers or things like that, I think it makes sense to make something in the industrial company. You are really free to make your science as you like. So you are really independent, which is very good for a fellowship, a scientific fellowship. You are really free to explore new topics even during your fellowship and to explore really deeply. And there are not so many administrative tasks to do during your fellowship, which is also very good. This is really made for people who have the project to enter into academic career in, I would say, I guess it's in France, but maybe in international career, if you can say that you will be maybe a future, I think they will be okay with this, but they really want to promote young people to integrate CNRS at the end or to the French National Center for Research, Public Research, or university career, or in industrial companies. They are really interesting to have also a new partnership with industrials. So, so you will be a CNES employee during these 2 years with the rights and duties that I described before. And so you are not hired by the hostel. And so you have here the numbers for the salary, the monthly salary, and there is no teaching duties. There are no teaching duties, but you really can teach if you want. And I think I finished. Yes.
Thank you very much, Damien. That was very instructive. You highlighted every detail. So really, thank you very much. I saw that there are questions and we will go through them in the open discussion as we're running a bit late on the schedule. So we will move to the next speaker, who unfortunately can't be here because he had another very important meeting. But I have the recording that Battista is going to share because I can't share my screen apparently. And Maurizio Paiola, he will talk about the NASA postdoctoral program. And I wanted to apply to this year, but due to the pandemic, they limited the application just to US citizens for now. But I think this talk is going to be very useful because hopefully they will open again in the next cycle. So enjoy the talk by Maurizio Paiola.
Can you see my screen? A black screen, at least.
Yeah, there's a black screen. Are you sure you share the right? Oh, perfect. Thank you. It's not going.
You cannot hear anything?
It's paused.
Okay, but did you hear before?
No.
No,
No,
not
because I can, but if you can't, I will not. Let's try again. Let me know. No sound?
no, it's not moving.
Okay. No, there is no animation for the moment, but at least the audio should be working. You are supposed to hear something.
Did you share the window or the whole screen? Because maybe
I share the window.
Okay.
Let's try again. Nothing.
No. Nothing. No.
We have to change a setting in Zoom to share sound.
Yes, probably yes. I'm looking for
Erika,
that.
can I jump in with a solution?
Yeah. Yes.
Batiste, Shiruk here. When you are doing screen sharing, you need to choose the option share computer sound on Zoom. Then only it will share the computer sound that or the movie sound you are playing.
Okay. I saw that. Okay. So it should be. It should work.
Share the entire computer and the computer sound.
Morning, everyone. My name is Maurizio Paiola, and I'm permanent position at the National Institute for Astrophysics called INAF in Italy at the Astronomical Observatory of Padua. So first of all, I would like to thank Erika for giving me the possibility to present
can you hear
the NASA postdoctoral program. But what I will try to
everything is
do
fine.
here this morning is try to share my personal experience of the NASA postdoctoral program. So the presentation will show some slides, about technical stuff, about how to get the NASA NPP, what is the NASA NPP. But then I will also like to share.
But it was working. Just undo what you just did. Baptiste?
Than just talking about the technical stuff.
Does it work?
So I'm sorry I cannot be in person. I have to pre-record this presentation because unfortunately right now I'm also on another telecom that I have to follow for ExoMars CASSIS instruments. So there is no other way I can be in two different telecoms, and that one I cannot avoid it. Okay. So what is the NASA postdoctoral program? The NASA postdoctoral program is a program that allows you to have the possibility to get to the US. You can be both from the US or non-US citizen, and you can try to go to whatever NASA center you would like to. Basically, it allows you to have an appointment of between 1 to 3 years. In my case, it was 2 years, and it's a competitive test. It's a competitive project. So as a postdoctoral scientist or senior scientist, what you are supposed to do is that you can conduct research in a very free way. It really depends on your boss, but basically in my case, it was a complete free way of doing research, of course, interacting with him. And of course, also interacting and collaborating with other US and international researchers. So the NASA postdoctoral program application deadlines are basically on March 1st, July 1st, November 1st, and it's always like that. In reality, it was not really changed now that we have the COVID-19 issues, whatever. The selection was a little bit changed. But what I'm talking here is my experience dating back to 2015, 16, and 2017. But basically, these application deadlines are still valid. Now, if you are a scientist, a researcher that got your PhD in the last 5 years, then you are eligible to apply as a postdoctoral fellow. On the contrary, if you have you got your PhD more than 5 years ago, then basically you may apply as a senior fellow, and you will get a little bit more money with respect to the postdoctoral fellow itself. Okay, the NASA postdoctoral program is related, of course, to NASA, but in reality is handled and managed by the University Space Research Association. When I was getting the NASA postdoc back in 2015, it was managed by ORAU, so it was a different one. And then I was lucky enough to transition right between 2015 and 2016 from ORAU, so all this huge paperwork, to USRA. And basically USRA is an independent nonprofit research corporation that is allowing and it is helping NASA, that is not really managing all these programs, but it's USRA that is doing all these technical and bureaucratic stuff. So what is really important here is that there are several NASA research centers all around the United States. Here, for example, you see that there is NASA Ames Research Center where I was based, but then there is, for example, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I was working there while I was a PhD student here for a couple of years. Then, of course, there are other space centers, like, for example, the Goddard one, Langley, Glenn, Marshall, and then Kennedy Space Center. So basically, you can apply for a NASA postdoctoral program regarding for whatever center, Johnson Space Center, for example, you can decide. So you can basically go wherever you would like to. Of course, you have to consider that the amount of money that you will get, it really depends on the area that you are based. Because, for example, if you are based in Florida or for example, in the East Coast or in Texas or in California, then your salary will be slightly higher with respect to other area. It really depends what is the cost of life of the state that you are based. Okay, so now trying to help you about how to write a good proposal. Basically, before doing any proposal writing, you have to contact a possible NASA advisor. In my case, at that time, it was already 2014, I contacted Dr. Ted Rush. You will see a photo of him later. And then I was discussing with him about the project that I had in mind. So it's really, really pivotal and important that you contact a NASA advisor. Otherwise, it will be difficult to write a proposal and then to satisfy a possible NASA advisor that doesn't really know even how you are working and all your, abilities, properties, and whatever. Then, of course, you have to develop your research plan together with her or him, so with the NASA advisor. And then you definitely must submit a research proposal that try to follow as much as you can the goals and objectives that is required in your research opportunity that you will select. And then, of course, your proposal will be reviewed by the center. So it will be first reviewed by the NASA advisor that basically, if he doesn't really knows you, can be positive about your project, but it can also be negative because he never interacted or she never interacted with you. So you have to think about it. Then, of course, this will be evaluated by the center itself in order to say, okay, are we going to get this researcher for 1, 2, or 3 years? Will be this researcher useful to the center itself, to the goals that the center has? And then, of course, if suitable, if you go along and if step 1 and step 2 are done, then you will be reviewed by at least 3 external peer reviewers. Then there will be the identification process. After 2 to 3 months after the application deadline, you will receive the results of the external peer review document. And even if you are not accepted, even if you are not allowed to go to this or that specific NASA center, look at all the strengths and weaknesses of the application, because it's really, really a great feedback that you are going to get. And it's really important in order, to grow up and do much better research, even if you will not be accepted or in case positive to the NASA centers. And then, of course, you will receive an offer letter, the terms of appointment, and then all the supporting materials. They are good at, sending you tons and tons of paperwork. So you will be, you will not be alone. You will follow for visa application, whatever you will be needed if you are a non-US citizen. And then, of course, you will receive everything within the application portal and all these properties. One thing that is really, really great is the relocation amount. You will basically get some money to go from the place you are to the NASA center and back. So if they're going to give you $10,000, let's say, in my case, I was getting something around $7,000, between $7,000 and $8,000. You are basically leaving from Venice, where I was living at that time. You are flying to the US, California, in my case, NASA Ames Research Center. And then I was using more than half of it. And the remaining part will be used for the relocation back. So this is a great, great thing of the NASA NPP. Wherever you are coming from, there is no problem. They will find out and help you, even with money. So I don't want to bore you anymore with lots of these, these technicalities, but double check on the side that I'm writing here, and it's really perfect. It's written everything. So I just don't want you to bother anymore. Now let's go to the juicy part of the talk. So where I was going, basically, I was going to NASA Ames Research Center. This is a great center related to astrobiology, but also Mars studies. This was my postdoc, was a second postdoc after another one that was getting and working on Rosetta and Comet 67P analysis here in Padova in Italy. And I was flying back to California because I was already in California in 2012 and 2013 as a PhD student at JPL. But this is the postdoc, this is the NASA postdoc. So I went to the Ames Research Center. It's a great center located in the Silicon Valley, in the southern part of Silicon Valley, in the southern part of the Bay Area. And it was a great, great opportunity to be there. So talking about a little bit the topic that I was studying, Phobos. Phobos is one of the two satellites of Mars. It's the biggest one orbiting Mars, around 6,000 kilometers from the surface. I believe it's an asteroid, and I was trying to publish paper before getting the NASA postdoc to Ames. And I believe it's a capture asteroid, but basically there is still a debated origin. So as you can see here, I'm not saying that you have to do something about planetology, but I'm suggesting, what is the context, what is the scientific context, and how can you develop a research project, and how can you help with this analysis. So in case, back in my time, Phobos was considered whether formed from a disk of debris as a remnant of the formation of Mars, or the result of a collision between Mars and a large body, or thanks to spectral observations taken in more than 40 years, it has physical characteristics that are similar to low albedo asteroids. Basically, it kind of looks like an asteroid. So it can be an asteroidal capture. So there is this conundrum. It's still debated now. But at that time, what I was thinking of was to say, okay, let's try to go back to the mineralogical analysis, analyze the surface, the spectra from 0.2 to 4.0 micron, and then trying to assess what I could be of help. This is, I'm leaving here the index of the project itself. It was not a lot of pages. It was around 20 pages in total. And as you can see, there is a short abstract. Then you have, of course, the introduction with the state of the art. This is really, really important. What has been done so far, and how can we proceed, and how can I help within this analysis? Why should I be paid to do this kind of work? Then, of course, there is the scientific rationale and the workflow proposal. I will show you a couple of things that I'm suggesting you to add to your proposal. And then, of course, there will be the perceived impact and relevance to NASA, because otherwise, if you are not relevant to NASA, then they are going to say, okay, but we don't really need this guy or this girl for the NPP. And then, of course, there will be references and the CV. So here I'm trying to show the word breakdown structure of the proposal. As you can see, there is the forward mineralogical analysis, and then there are the different working package here. I don't want you to bother you and to explain everything, but these, if you have 10 pages, do not think that an image is not useful. Most of the time, just having one image, even if it's filling one entire page, it's really useful, because one image is worth, and it's much better than 10,000 words. So with this image, I was saying, okay, the project is like that. And that's something I was learned here in the University of Padova to develop this work breakdown structure with all the different processes and working package that I wanted to do. And another thing is the Gantt chart. When I will be accomplishing this working package or that other working package. So a couple of pages, they were completely filled by me by these images. Don't forget to do something like that. It was really, really appreciated when I was showing and I was presenting my project. And then, of course, there is, do not forget to have the perceived impact. While something is already done, but why is needed my analysis? Why is needed the kind of analysis that I have in mind? And of course, also relevance to NASA. So here I'm not reading what I was doing, but basically you will have the possibility to stop the video or to do a screenshot and then to read it. Why is it relevant, my project, to NASA? So long story short, I submitted it in 2015. My boss was Ted Rush at that time. And as you can see here, there is this research opportunity that you have to call, and then of course successes, and say, I would like to have this one. Now, then you will get the paperwork if you are gonna get selected, and then they are gonna tell you, you will come here at that specific time, that specific day, and this will be the amount that you are gonna get if you accept it and sign it. But just to wrap up, it's not just work. It's something that is great. It's a great opportunity. But as you can see here, your boss becomes your friend. So you start eating together. It was a great opportunity. So it's something that I really suggest you to do. It's a great, great opportunity to be a NASA postdoctoral program. It is extremely useful for your career. And it's not just work. You are also enjoying life. In my case, I was in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, and I was going surfing in Santa Cruz. So it's not just work. So with this last slide, I thank you. And if you have any questions, please send them along to maurizio.pajola@enough.it. Thank you.
Thank you, Baptiste, for sharing the screen. And yeah, we thank Maurizio, even though he can't be here. But if you have questions, do write to him. He is a very kind person, and he will solve any doubt you have. All right, we are running very late, so let's move on to the next speaker, who was supposed to be Matteo Massironi, but since he's going on the field, we have Luca Penasa substituting him. And this is a hybrid talk because it's about fundings, but also about this European project, GMAP, in the frame of Europlanet 2024. So I leave space to Luca, and thank you very much, Luca, for being here. Luca?
Okay, I found the right button, sorry. So thank you, Erika. And yes, as Erika said, this talk is a little bit in between because probably it's different from the talk Matteo will have been doing somehow. And I will put some hints of my personal experience within a founded Horizon 2020 project and give you some indication how basically the idea within that project were actually, sorry, I forgot that term, were actually reused into Europlanet and implemented as a GMAP, So basically the founding idea of this kind of activity is geological mapping. So you all know how important is cartography in, let's say, everyday life, and how important is in planetary science. Of course, whatever kind of activity you are trying to do on a different planet, you need the accurate cartography. And we are geologists. I'm a geologist, basically. So we are referring mostly to geological cartography, but in general, it's very important. And an important point then is that today there is just one very big entity that takes care of publishing and providing support to the community of mappers of publishing geological cartography and in general planetary maps. And this is basically in contrast with what we have in Europe, because in Europe, we don't have any kind of central agency doing that. So the idea of GMAP was, why don't we try to build something on this kind of subject? Why don't we try to create an infrastructure that could help Europe, can help a planetary mission? You know, the point is planetary missions are done at an European level, but when you end up doing planetary mapping, all the efforts are distributed and not really well organized together. Even within the community, it's not easy and obvious to talk to each other. So that is the whole idea. And you know also that Europlanet infrastructure is pretty large, and GMAP together with machine learning were the two latest additions within the virtual access activities, differently from TA activities providing access for people moving from one country to another one. We cannot provide that kind of funding, but of course we provide other kind of support. We will talk about it a little bit later. And so here is the idea. Most of the ideas, as I said, come from this already funded project, the Horizon 2020 project Plan Map, that was an idea by Matteo, and of course, all the other members of the consortium. And it was a huge effort. It just ended this year. So we are basically after the deadline of the end, but we are still fixing up a little bit of paperwork. And at the same time, GMAP started within Europlanet, and it was a very important way to collect all the relevant output of this project and also other projects that members were involved in at the time into a more organized infrastructure, and that could put us in contact with other people doing slightly different works, all in support of planetary exploration and planetary mapping for what is our interest here. So as I said, PlanMap had, this is just my very personal view of the PlanMap project. So if you end up applying, for example, for some postdoc position in a project that might look similar to PlanMap, where we basically try to use available data from planetary mission on Moon, Mercury, and Mars to create new products, some innovative products. I believe you might be interested in this view, let's say. I believe there were some very innovative key points that were in the proposal of PlanMap originally, and especially just to name some, creating new kind of maps with spectral information, not just morphostratigraphic maps, but maps that were composed and created considering also spectral information. And of course, we tested for the first time, I would say, how easy it is to create 3D geological models of planetary surfaces. So not just quick and easy 3D visualization of the surface, but how much are we able to infer the subsurface of planetary surfaces from the data we have. That is not easy, but it was a good way to test it. Then we had some participants to the project that took care of virtual reality, so testing out how much virtual reality could be used for planetary sciences. And the last point I believe was interesting because we also created a pretty good amount of artwork that was very useful to perform outreach for the general public. At the same time, I would like to share with you what I've been learning in this, because in the past I've been a postdoc together with Maurizio for the Rosetta mission, and then I moved on this project and working together with Matteo and the other members of PlanMap, we had a lot of duties you will not expect as a fresh, let's say, somebody that comes with just at the finish of the PhD. There is a lot of stuff that is not totally completely science, but it is actually in support of science, of the people in your project, within your project that do science. There is a lot of infrastructure to create at the very beginning of a project like this one. And if you are producing data, you have to figure out a good archiving strategy. It's time demanding because somebody is gonna get their hands on the data and I don't know, creating archives, putting them somewhere, etc. You have to be present in the social media, and that is also a duty. It's not totally, I would say, doing research only, but you need to do this kind of work. If you imagine at the very beginning of the project, you might create a website for your project and somebody will have to write all the material. It's not something you can pay somebody to do it for you, but there is science in that. You have to convey your idea, the idea of your project, so you have to do it by yourself. Of course, I believe one of important point was this creation of artworks that I believe was really appreciated. And I would like to stress that managing a project like this one, so Matteo in this case especially, and Angelo, who were basically taking care of this task, is a pretty big work, so it might take up a lot of your time. And those are some of the products that we ended up with. So planetary cartography, we published like at least 20 products most are maps. There are a couple of 3D geological models and VR experiences. You can find them more or less everything on the website, but you can find them on the PlanMap website. You can find the links, the relevant links to this kind of material. This is a 3D model made by Ricardo. And this is the kind of artwork we have been producing with PlanMap. And of course, as I said, PlanMap was a kind of foundation for creating GMAP. But of course, you have to figure out how to shrink fit whatever idea you have in mind into what is actually possible to do within, in this case, the Europlan infrastructure. So PlanMap was a little bit reorganized. We figure out different tasks, and if you ever will be working in a project like this one, one thing I would like to stress is that you are getting used to acronyms pretty soon. They have a special structure you will need to learn, and it's a little bit demanding, but at the same time gives you a lot of experience in how projects like this work. And this is a graphical view of the same thing, basically. So we have virtual assets activities subdivided in different tasks, who takes care of providing basically services for the community. There are joint research activity, JRA, that takes care of interacting with different portion of the Europlanet or external structures. And this is what we believe we want to provide for the community. It's a virtual assets activity, so we don't have funding to, I don't know, if you want to come in Padua, for example, to perform geological mapping. That is not really easy, not something we can provide, but of course it might be easier having GMAP on your side to ask for other kinds of funding. But the key point here is that what we really want is to start creating a community. So not impose, let's say, GMAP as a central place where we tell all the people what should be done, but we are really open to have the community participating in GMAP. We have a website that is collecting some useful resources and information. We are trying to keep it populated, and we will be doing it much more in the future, I guess. We started drafting some documentation and tutoring material on planetary mapping, on some technical aspects of it. And something I will show you in a moment, we are preparing a kind of social network for planetary mapping where people will be able to share their own works. So to, let's say, create a central repository open to anybody that want to publish and make discoverable their work. And we, as I said, we want to listen to the community. So we are launching this monthly community virtual meeting. If you want to get part, just drop us an email at info@planetarymapping.eu. And we also have a mailing list, so we can add you if you are interested. We are also creating tools. And as I said, we are open to suggestions. So if you believe you have a great idea for a tool, you don't know how to implement it, but you believe it would be useful for planetary mapping, just let us know. And this is the data integration portal, just some screenshot we are working on. And it will be a place where we can, basically the community can put on their own works and make it making them easy to find from the community. So just a couple of concluding points. GMAP now, together with machine learning, virtual assets activity, is part and a key component of the whole Europlanet research infrastructure. And we are here to support the community, not just to write down in stone new standards that every mapper should use, but we are really open, so we can discuss everything we are doing. And we believe, especially for younger researchers that might be willing to start new mapping in planetary sciences, but maybe they don't have somebody at the university. We are here especially for them, so they can get in touch, and they will have the ability to be put in contact with people, experienced researchers that do that since many years. And of course, whatever product we are hosting on the portal will be made discoverable through the Vespa activity, that is another VA of Europlanet. So yeah, that's it. If you have any question, I'd be happy to reply.
Thank you very much, Luca. As I said at the beginning, this was an hybrid talk because it was not really about fundings, but a different type of support for you and for any scientists in planetary sciences. We are running late, so if you have questions, please write them down and we will discuss it in the open discussion after the coffee break. Now, before leaving you to have your coffee, James McKevitt wants to share very shortly something that he's working on. So please, James, feel free to share the screen or just talk.
Yes, so let me know if you can.
Luca,
I can only share my screen. I'll try and be as quick as possible, by the way. I did sneak off to grab a coffee during the last couple of talks. I don't want to hold us away from our coffee any longer. For those who weren't in the icebreaker yesterday, I have my planetary mug with Pluto on it for my coffee. So, also joining me is someone else from the project I'm going to be presenting, called Christina Blomberg. You can see her on your screen as well. I still can't share my screen, I'm afraid, Erica.
Yeah, Luca, you should stop sharing, please. Not sure I can do that for him. Okay.
Aside from holding my laptop up to its own camera, I'm a little bit stuck, I'm afraid.
Okay, he wrote me, kick me out. I can't stop. So sorry, Luca, I'm kicking you out. Yeah. Move.
Okay. Okay, so I'll give screen sharing another go. That looks better. So, can everybody see my slides? Excellent.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just see if I can get a few more pictures on my screen. Awesome. So thanks for giving me, like I said, I'll try and just take 5 minutes. I know we're desperate for coffee. So I'm going to quickly talk about the research group Indu gave a little shout out to during the icebreaker yesterday, and then talk about something that we've got going on in August and September that might be of interest to a couple of people. So again, in the interest of coffee, drop us some emails or whatever. I'll put an email in the chat if you have any questions. I'm also happy to hang around where people can shoot off if they want. So I want to talk about a small kind of research group we started first called Connex. So we've all heard a lot over the last, I don't know, this morning and yesterday evening about how COVID really kind of impacted a lot of our research and limited access to people and opportunities. One thing we did as a group of people from our university is decide we were actually part of a space society and we're working on an engineering project together. So going from in-person to online was a little bit difficult for us. And so we decided we wanted a similar project where we could collaborate online instead. So we formed a really, really small group, just kind of with the aim of writing a mission proposal or something like this, maybe putting it online or something like that. And this group grew to be really, really big. So we've got people in, I think, every continent minus Antarctica now. So a thing I always say is, if you know any penguins who want to join a research group and we can fill in the last bit of the map, that would be great. So we've got people from all over the place and also from a lot of different backgrounds. So engineering people, planetary science people, which is why I'm obviously talking to Europlanet, and all early careers focused, so between 18 and 35 years old. What we've been working on is a mission to Neptune with a few of the science goals surrounding it. So looking at Kuiper objects and the Neptunian system in general. So I'm not going to talk so much in detail about science. This is for another day. But we are going to be presenting. I'm looking forward to my first in-person conference for ages in St. Petersburg in less than a week now. Then in London a couple of weeks after that, and then in Dubai in October. So we also had our presentation shortlisted for the best technical presentation in St. Petersburg, which is cool. So a lot of kind of stuff has come out of this mission. And like I say, we're just a group of early careers people who want to focus on mission proposals. So filling in the engineering side and the feasibility of this, and then adding the science stuff as well to make it realistic. And there's a cool render of the spacecraft you can see here. So this is the spacecraft that the team have designed. We've got the graphics people who have kind of made the ideas just go from a paper into something that's quite easy to shout about. So Connex has quite a strong presence on Twitter and Instagram, and then the website is also quite cool as well. So I would encourage you to check Connex research out on Twitter and Instagram. Space mission. Yeah, sorry, Christina, go ahead.
Sorry. The Arcana mission was the mission we've been working on for the past year, and now we decided for our second year we want to kickstart it with our Space Summer Academy. And so what we want to do is get like students, early career people, and teach them or invite speakers that then teach them some space related topics. We want to start two new projects, which will be a Titan Lake Explorer and the Climate Change CubeSat mission for Earth. And we want to use that Summer Academy to kind of kick that off, and hopefully also produce some conference papers at the end of the year. Next slide, please. So our planet topics are technical. We also have a lot of software engineering, since these are topics that are not that, I would say, common in especially like aerospace engineering. And we want to give these skills especially also to the students. And along with that, we want to have some project management sessions where we will also do the brainstorming for the missions and how to moderate like a meeting, team building and stuff. We also think that it's important to have Linux, Git and LaTeX skills to then also, for example, write the paper. And all our sessions should focus on like what setup do you need, what hardware, what software, applications in industry and academia, and typically like what's the workflow, how do you go from an idea to the actual product. And at the end, I would like to get some workshops or demonstrations from our invited people. And yeah, in general, all the sessions should have a focus on these two missions that we will do. That's it.
Okay, so we've got a link here. If you just want to register like your name and your email address, just if you're interested in receiving like mailing stuff. We'll also be putting stuff out about the Summer Academy on social media at some point. So if you guys have any networks that you can share this stuff with, or people who you think might be interested in like upskilling themselves in this area, that'd be really good. Another thing, I'll just very quickly go back a couple of slides. So you can see this render here, the spacecraft that we've designed. The whole purpose of it is to show what you can do if you design a really large spacecraft all in one and take advantage of these new super heavy lift launch vehicles like Starship, for example, or New Glenn. So we've tried to kind of pick a niche and like an upcoming area in the sector, which has been these launch vehicles, and kind of give a science twist to it. So fully science-centric missions rather than like crude exploration, which gets a lot of attention at the moment. So we try to be quite interesting, and I have to say it takes more and more of my time, but I really, really love what this group are doing at the moment. So if you have any questions, I'll be around for the rest of the annual week. I'm on the Slack as well. And then if you just go to connexresearch.com, or is it hello@connexresearch.com for the email address? Then we'll get an email as well. So I think I'll just throw that to any questions, or we can end and people can finally have their coffee. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And yeah, I think a lot of us can benefit from this academy. So please, if you have questions, write to James or Christina. And yeah, we're running very, very late, so I'm sorry, but we have to sacrifice a little bit of coffee break and do it just 10 minutes. So we will regroup in 10 minutes. And in the meanwhile, if you want share your coffee and have a chat, we can use the Wonder link that Noah yesterday sent. It's still active. I'm going to paste it again in the chat. So I'll see you in 10 minutes or for the coffee break on Wonder. Thank you very much. And yeah, following, there is the open discussion after the coffee break. So don't miss it. I'll see you in a while. All right, we're back. I'm deeply sorry about the short coffee break, but we will make it up to it in the next coffee breaks. Not sure if everyone's here. Some people are still wonder, probably.
I think you have almost all of them, because before they were 51 and now they're 48.
Okay. Okay, well, we can start our open discussion. Probably more will join in a bit. So let's check if all the speakers of the session are here. Charlotte, are you here? Charlotte is probably not here. Let's see if we have Anna.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Damien?
I'm here.
Great, thank you.
So shall we ask the questions in audibly, or shall we just type them in chat instead?
Well, you can either raise your hand or just write in the chat, and I will try to moderate as best as I can. There are also a few questions already in the chat, so I will try to address that to the speakers. So Maurizio is not here, and Luca? Luca can't rejoin. Okay. I have just Damien and Anna. Okay. Oleg, go ahead.
Right. So I have a lot of questions, but let me start with Charlotte. So for ESA's place.
Charlotte is here.
Oh, there she is.
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you.
So what level of CV should one consider, or at what stage in the career is basically my question. One can consider applying for a fellowship at ESA, because I imagine since the range is between 1 to 4 postdocs, it's quite a different amount of papers people have and so on.
Yeah. Well, personally, I think you can apply at any stage. This is my first postdoc, but we also have people in the 3rd or 4th. I think what's more important than the number of postdocs that you've done is that you can demonstrate your independence. So this was one of the questions they asked me, was considering that it is my first postdoc, how independent am I? Am I sure that I can work without a supervisor there, without someone that gives me tasks and I just do them? So if you feel that you're at a stage in your career where you have a good grasp of what you want to do in a project, and also how to time things, right? How to self-motivate, then apply, go for it. Doesn't matter how far along you are.
Okay. So even for a first postdoc, when you are essentially just fresh out of your supervisor's wings, it's
exactly. So anytime, really, as long as you have a PhD, that's important by the time you start. But when I wrote my proposal, I was actually still writing my PhD thesis as well. So.
Well, that makes sense. And the second question is, so since the teaching is not really relevant, will it be sort of considered a waste of time in your CV if you have
No, I don't think so. It's basically what they look for is well-rounded people. And if you have done teaching, that not only gives you skills in teaching itself, but it also gives you outreach skills, which are very valued at ESA. So if you've done a lot of teaching, great.
Okay, thank you.
All right. There is a question for Anna. How much time would you recommend to set aside for writing the proposal? Hans asked.
Hi, Hans. I think it's a good time to start now with getting in touch and defining the topic. I think for the proposal itself, when everything else is settled, I think 3 weeks is enough. But there is a lot of things around, like the parts that the university has to write, how you will arrange your outreach activities that you have to communicate around. So I think 2 months overall, but just for writing, I think 3 weeks is enough of the 3 weeks of question work.
Okay, and then how did you select your host institute?
Let me give a 3-minute story. I went towards the end of my PhD, I went to a summer school and I was really fascinated by a talk and what they do at that institute. It was related to finding water in lunar minerals. And I really wanted to do it. So I approached the guy and I said, what are the opportunities to come to your institution, and bear in mind that my CV and my research direction is very far from what you do. So I basically really chose the host by what I wanted to learn. Okay. I approached the person in person or via email. You can do that. That is really encouraged to do.
Okay, thank you very much. Not sure if Hans is still here, but I think many people benefit from the answer. We have another question for Charlotte. Could you tell more about those 15% optional functional tasks? What kind of tasks does it include?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's very varied. It depends on what you want to do and what people at ESA are doing at that moment in time. But just as an example, so at the moment I'm working on planning for the operations of Comet Interceptor and visualizing the flyby. So that would be considered a functional task because it goes, it's not science, it's something that prepares for mission. But there's also people working on outreach activities, for example, or I don't know, working on operations as well of your missions. So this really depends on what's available at the time and what you want to do. And it's a good conversation to have with your mentor at some point.
Thank you. Any other question? We have 2 minutes. I think I finished the questions on the chat, so you're free to raise your hand and ask your questions. Oh, there's a question for James. Is it restricted to people less than 36?
Hello, no, it's not. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. So no, it's not at all. This has been our focus, and I have to say, I think every member, we've had some people advisors who are slightly older than this, but in like the core team who meet once or twice a week, this is the age range, but no, it's not limited to this at all. If you don't mind, me making you feel old, then yeah, of course, it's open to anyone.
Thank you. All right, Rutu raised their hand.
Yeah. So I think this is question for all of them who presented, and it is more or less related to the project proposal. So, you know, the brainstorming, as they all say, it's a very important thing before you start writing any proposal, so that at least you know in which direction the applicant is heading. But I think at least the challenging part, what I feel is sometimes, you know, the advisor is in some other country, applicant is in some other country, and there is always a sort of a little idea, but then to formulate that idea in an entire proposal, you need to have, you know, a very good, let's say, a long hours of discussions and everything. And at least that I feel is really challenging to have in a virtual environment, especially the discussion. And, you know, once you start jotting down these objectives, there's always to and fro, like the applicant is feeling something, the advisor is feeling something else. So in that case, have you ever used any sort of tools, you know, which can help you to get through this, the brainstorming time, because yeah, virtually at least, and for example, now I'm applying for a lot of fellowship and proposals and everything, and at least yeah, I feel it's very challenging for me because the discussion is always, going on and on the virtual environment, and it's very difficult for us to finalize, and of course the advisors don't have endless time for discussion with us. So in that case, like what can be done? For example, something when Anna was showing in her presentation, like two different whiteboard pictures. One, the initial stage, which was very messy, and the last stage, it was very well defined objective. And I assume she did that the entire process while she was there in person with her advisor. So yeah, it's challenging, because of this. I cannot go and see my advisor, and so how do you suggest this the most efficient way for this particular part of the proposal writing?
Should I start and then the others can take over?
Yeah.
Yes, you're very right. This was in person, Ruto, and I cannot say thank you enough to Mahesh who initiated that. It turned out to be the crucial moment, dedicating the time. I mean, he did not have 10 hours a day, of course, but I was there and we had half an hour every day here and there. That was really helpful. But I have to say that we started communicating not in person, we started communicating in Skype. So that was the time of Skype, we didn't have Zoom then. So maybe just, you have to set the boundaries. The supervisor will not define your project. So try to have an agenda every time you meet. Maybe you will have 10-minute talk every few days or so on, and just try to have, a registered and well-defined plan of this goes into proposal or this does not go into the proposal. We have to cut it somewhere. It has to be realistic. You don't have to write everything in the proposal. The proposal has to be realistic. Give it 10% flexibility for everything that can happen in the world, and don't promise too much. Promise what you can really do. That will give you the freedom to do other extra things that you don't have to mention in the proposal. So try to be as focused as much as you can when you meet them for the 10 minutes, for the 15 minutes, and discuss whether those ideas go into proposal or don't go into the proposal. Try to have a wrapped up story and don't focus on having everything in it. Have the flow, have the brilliant idea, don't have all the details in there. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Anna.
Yeah. All right, we're a bit late and Nigel is already here for the next talk. So just a very last question for Damian. Teaching is not mandatory, but can we make some teaching stuff anyways in addition? Both are still compatible?
Yes, you can. It's just not written in your contract for the next postdoc, but it depends on the relationship you have with your supervisor and your host laboratory, but usually you are very free to make your own science, which includes the time you spend on outreach or in teaching duties. So it's very free up to you to find times to teach, and well, there is no thing in the contract that prevents you from teaching, and you can spend the time you need to teach. Of course, if it's 100%, maybe it's not very good to do this, but you can spend a significant fraction of your time teaching if it's something you need for example for a university position or something like that. If it's justified by this kind of needs, you are very welcome to teach a significant fraction of your working time.
Thank you very much, Damian. Okay, so we can start with Nigel's talk.
Hello, this is not my talk, but this is just,
yeah, indeed, I was seeing.
just hearing what you were discussing and know what you were discussing. I've actually just come off a discussion following very much what Anna said. We have a proposal to be finalized to go in next week for a UK fellowship, and the person who's writing it is basically based in India. So we've done all our conversations on how to write the proposal over various Zoom meetings at interesting times. I did run a training course for one of the Marie Curie ITNs last year, which includes some of the career slides I'll show later today. But one of the things I did as part of that was how to write a successful fellowship proposal. I can send that as a PDF if people would be interested. I suspect that many of you already had all the main things, but I mean, as I say, you can see there are just some basic guidelines. So I'm happy just to send those over as well. I suspect you've had them all, but I'll happily send those over as well. As I said, that wasn't what I was asked to talk on. I was asked to talk on what the opportunities are in the Europlanet program itself for you. So I'm just going to put up those slides, which is somewhere. Where have they gone? Where have they gone? Too many windows open. There it is. Epic annual week, whiteboard, Microsoft Teams. That's interesting. It's on my slide. But...
In the meantime, Anna, there is a question for you in the chat. Yeah. Maybe if you want to answer.
Yeah, it's not really a question. Rutu said, yes, please, Nigel, share. That would be helpful.
No, before.
If somebody can read it.
You can also give your answer by writing on the chat. In that case, we will not.
Okay, here we are. Got too many windows open. I found the right one now, so let's get that onto full screen. Okay, so can everybody see that? Europlanet funding opportunities, yep?
We can't see the full screen. Like, we are still seeing the list of slides.
Oh, that's interesting. Let me go back. According to my screen, it was showing it as full screen. Let's try again. Slideshow again.
Probably you shared just the window and not the entire screen. Okay, yeah.
You see it now?
Yeah, thank you.
See it full screen now, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so very quickly, as I say, the funding opportunities from a Europlanet perspective. So I gave you yesterday a whirlwind guide of Europlanet, all the things that we do and who you're part of. I'm just going to strip out those now and talk to you about the things that you can apply for as being part of the Europlanet program. And they are predominantly, because the most of the money, 10 million, is in the Europlanet research infrastructure. And these are opportunities that have been available to the community since 2009. And in the latest format will now run through to 2024. So we have the following areas which you are eligible to apply for. They are all aimed particularly at early career. I mean, they obviously mature and any other scientists can use many of these, but we're particularly keen to get early career researchers involved in these things. I will always be honest. I know who does most of the work, and it is the PhD students and the postdocs who do the work, and the senior academics. We're a bit like the generals sitting behind the lines telling you what to do, but you're the ones we send out into the trenches. So there are some areas here which are just to talk quickly about. The Transnational Access Program is perhaps the largest and important one. The Europlanet Telescope Network that's been launched just a couple of months ago. The opportunities for networking, of which EPIC comes as part of that. And not one that you have to apply for because it is there all the time, is the Virtual Access Program and the open access to data tools and simulations, where we have the largest consortium of those sort of things, I think, around now. But let me just go through the transnational access. Now, you've just been talking about fellowships and how to write those fellowship proposals and what you've got to put in them. Well, the key thing in nearly all fellowship proposals, which is your first step to being an independent researcher. So moving away from applying for a postdoc position where the grant has been awarded to a PI to one that is awarded to you as an individual. All those fellowship programs, national, international, etc., have a key box which says, does this person have potential, or it will indicate their ability to be an independent researcher. And the problem you often have is filling that box. What can I put in there to show that I've done something independently, that I haven't just done whatever my supervisor or line managers told me? Well, you can use a variety of programs to do that, but all of them critically, I think you should be looking at is things which you apply for small amounts of money in your own right, writing your own scientific ideas, so that when you're asked that question, have you ever put together a proposal? Have you done, give us an example of where you've come up with an independent scientific idea and how you followed it. You can answer that question. So a transnational access program is very good for ticking that box, because what you'd have to do in a very really relatively short proposal, a couple of pages, is propose a science experiment that you want to do at a facility outside the country you're currently working in. And in Europlanet, we have perhaps the largest range of planetary science infrastructures now in the world with open access. We divide them into two: the planetary field analogues, which is what they are, says what they are. These are places in the world that we have chosen to be terrains which are perhaps most suitable for comparing with planetary surfaces. We have two starting in Argentina this year, which are basically up in the Andes Mountains, where, for example, you can look at water underneath icy mantles, underneath glaciers, with the idea being that that's the sort of thing you would be looking for on many of the icy moons. You want to sort of think about what sort of chemistry and life might survive underneath an ice cap. The same goes for Greenland, where we're using the glaciers of Greenland. Then there are Martian-y type surfaces, which have rich geology and chemistry, salty layers and so on. And there we have Botswana, the salt pans in Botswana. The one we did use regularly up until recently was the Daliol in Ethiopia. Of course, that one is now not eligible because of the civil disorder there and the war that's been there. So sadly, we don't see that people will be able to go back there for a while, but it has been very successful over the last 5 years or so. We also have Iceland, which is a very popular astrobiology and geology site, obviously very easy to get to. We will be going there with a big expedition of 10 groups, because all the groups that have been saved up because of COVID, they've all been blocked waiting. And then some of you will know the Rio Tinto, which is an acidic river in Spain. So if you are a field site person, these are the sites that we offer at the moment, and they will be available as soon as travel is eligible again, except, as I say, we won't be suggesting Ethiopia. We then have a huge variety of laboratory facilities. Some of you are probably working in some of those facilities. There are 24 laboratory facilities across Europe. Some of them are analytical tool facilities, so analyzing meteorites, analyzing samples. Now, of course, we're very interested in things like the recent meteorite fall in the UK, but micrometeorites, bringing back dust from the space missions, OSIRIS-REx, Hayabusa, etc. Simulation facilities, spectroscopic facilities for looking at the spectra of ices and minerals on Venus, so hot places like in the DLR in Germany, cold as in Grenoble, and irradiation facilities to look at how those minerals and ices are changed by magnetospheric bombardment or UV bombardment, solar radiation, for example, for ices on the New Horizons program, or the icy moons with the magnetospheric ions from Jupiter. In the last year, we formed an alliance with South Korea and China, and they are opening up their facilities to us, and we are opening up our facilities to them. China is actually offering one field site as well, which is a crater fall in the northeast of China. They are now available, of course, but again, of course, all those travel ones have been limited by the pandemic. The application is peer reviewed. We have had 2 calls in last year and early this year. Those, of course, have essentially not taken place because of COVID. We are bringing in the idea of doing virtual access, and some facilities like the one in Hungary, we have piloted those. So you can still do your proposal, or you can just send your sample, or you'll come up with your experiment, and it can be done by people at the facility, and you interact with them online. And this indeed is a program that we expect to become more and more likely way of working in the future, because of the commissions and government's concern about sustainability and scientists flying all over the world. So we are beginning to offer that. For the next call won't be out until probably the end of this year, or probably the beginning of next, because we've got such a backlog for the COVID. However, what we have introduced is an opportunity for what we call urgent access. So if you come up with an idea and you discuss it with the facility, and both of you are keen to do it, but don't want to wait for the next call, there will be a way of putting in a program to do that. If you are involved in any ones that have been funded and you're worried about not being able to go for any reasons, A, you could probably try and do it virtually. That's one option. Or B, you can discuss again the opportunities for postponing it into 2023. But these are things that you can do, and as I say, they look very good in fellowship proposals. Similarly, in the current round of Europlanet, we have brought in a telescope network facility. This is something we've been trying to do for perhaps a decade, but never quite managed to do it or get it funded. But this time we have. There are 16 small telescope facilities spread across Europe, from the Ukraine to the Canary Islands, with 16 telescopes there. Exactly the same as applying for any other telescope when you apply for access. They're open to both the professional and the amateur astronomy community. They are particularly geared towards supporting missions. There was a very successful campaign of putting all these telescopes to look at the Juno encounter with Jupiter, and we want to get ready for flyby of Venus and also Bepi Colombo. So again, if any of you are sort of thinking about, I'd like to get some telescope experience, please do this. But this is on an open call. There are no deadlines because we never know when something interesting is going to come in, a new comet or something. Again, a very quick proposal writing process. And then you get time on that telescope. Again, some of them are robotics, so you can control them yourself. But the travel money is also there for you to go to these telescopes and collect the data, as well as, of course, due to pandemic, also working virtually. These are all the virtual access tools. You don't need to apply to do these because they're all open access and they're all online. You'll see all these things here. You'll hear about some of them, I think, during the week. For those of you who worked on solar wind and space weather, you have SPIDER. Everybody in this group should know about Vespa and look at it and use it. It's over 100 simulation tools, models, databases, and it now has the seal of approval both from ESO and from NASA. And then we have GMAP, which is an ongoing project looking at the geology and the mapping of the surface. Very interesting if you're involved in any work with the rovers on Mars, for example, or you want to look at future planning on Titan, etc. The geological mapping of the planetary bodies is the way forward with this. It is also being extended into mapping asteroids, etc. as well. The last activity on this list is a research project, about $500,000 we've put towards trying to develop machine learning tools for planetary science and bringing machine learning and artificial intelligence into the planetary science community. And that's joint with some small, medium enterprise companies. So that one is really not, that's a research project. It's not really an open access yet, but by the end of the project, those tools will be available. There are also various networking activities, which also include the opportunity of applying for small amounts of funding, widening participation from underrepresented states. That basically means states in Central Eastern Europe, or other states which are regarded as underrepresented, like Portugal. This brings me back to what I said yesterday. This is where the nodes are important to organize those sort of events and areas. We have opened expert visits. These are 1 week short visits, which are funded for you to go to another laboratory. The expert visits are meant to be things where what you're going to do out of it will help benefit some aspect of the research infrastructure. But it is an opportunity for doing some learning and experience, getting in some experience activities, and bringing that information back into your institution. We have started a lot of global collaboration, and there is a launch of to be an ambassador, a Europlanet ambassador. Again, I think all of you would be experts at that. This is to work with universities and students in Africa to get them, encourage them, not just to look at planetary science, but to look at space in general. There's a big push in Africa to develop their space programs. And of course, planetary science is not first in their mind, but many of the field sites we're interested in do happen to lie in Africa. But if you're interested in taking up an ambassadorial role and talking to people and giving talks and so on space in general, at a general level, we would encourage you to do that. And again, being a Europlanet ambassador would be something that would also look very good in your CV when you're applying for fellowships and so on. The network activities also include the early career mentoring program, which I think you will hear about and have heard about during this week, which is pairing you up with an experienced mentor. We've only really basically completed the pilot stage, but I do think those people who have embarked on it, maybe there are some here in EPIC who are actually going through that experience. I've got a mentee in Portugal, and I have one of our people here at Kent being mentored by somebody at ESA. I really can't say enough about mentoring. Getting through your career path, you need people who are prepared to give you advice. Yes, they might help you steer you towards what research centers are the place to go when you've got an idea of where you want to go. They can help you with fellowship proposals. A good mentor is a critical friend, and I put the emphasis on critical. If they're really good, they will tell you what you can do, but they'll also tell you what you can't do. And the most difficult discussions are sometimes to say to somebody, particularly in the postdoc range, that maybe what you're trying to do is not going to happen. It's going to be a little bit too ambitious, or the route and the things you want to do are possible, and you've got to find another way of either getting that, etc. I also think it's very important to realize that I suspect that many of you at the moment are thinking about more traditional academic careers. The big growth in employment in Europe in space is going to be in companies. And many of those companies will be working on space programs and space missions, both looking down and looking out. And they are going to be looking for people like you. So getting some ideas and working with people who have experience in working in industry and those sort of careers are vital. So, you know, if you haven't thought about it, you may well want to think about, you want to be an academic type career and so on, but there are loads of other very exciting and entertaining roles deeply ingrained in performance of the space programs, building the space instruments, being on the space missions, which are industrial like. So do think about that. And finally, we have the education and outreach, which is an annual call that we put out for small grants. Many of you I know do public engagement and so on, and it's, you know, to encourage the next generation, having people like you going out and explaining what you do is absolutely vital. So there are some small grant calls both through the society and in the research infrastructure. We tend to focusing those at the moment through the hubs. So the hubs help to get those calls and then put them in. We've just had a round and we've some really exciting ideas, and we're trying to be equally imaginative in how we can find funds to fund it. But again, you know, applying for a £2,000, €2,000 outreach project, these are things that which you're then successful. These are the things that look successful in your CVs. So again, as I showed yesterday, you'll find all the information of these things on the RI and the Europlanet websites. So do go in and look at those and do it. But I do urge you, if you're to say, particularly if you're looking at fellowship, think about things where you can put forward small projects, visits that you can then put in your CV to show that you have initiated something. You have come up with an idea. You have gone to somebody to get some money for it. They've given you that money for it. You've gone and done it, and you've used it in some way, because that's the way that you will demonstrate and you show people that you essentially have got evidence that you are an independent researcher.
Thank you very much, Nigel, for this accurate overview. We have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
So the first one, is there a solution to get some fundings for a specific and relevant field trip that is not in a transnational access list?
If you mean you want to put together your own field trip to another site, no, we do. Unfortunately, we are tied down on the RI site for the TAs, for the facilities that we've got. Nonetheless, these things do happen, and the Europlanet teams may be able to direct you towards some funding of other streams that you might be able to apply for. We do have, as I say, we're trying to be imaginative as we can be with the way that we apply the funding. At the moment, we're trying to be incredibly imaginative because of the pandemic. Many of the TA type programs and other programs have been slowed down, and we may not be able to spend all the money in the time that we want to, that we planned. But we always have to get permission from the Commission before we can spend it on something else. The Society does have calls, but again, unfortunately, at the moment, because of the pandemic, we haven't had 2 EPSCs. We make most of our income from the EPSCs. So until we bring in some more money, we're limited into relatively small sums. But if you've got an idea, I would suggest that you maybe just contact me in the first place. And if I can't answer it or give you an idea of how to do it, then I'll pass you on to somebody who probably will be able to. There is a lot of little bits of money around the world. And I'm a great believer in getting the small money, because the small money enables you to put some evidence to ask for the big money. So if you've got an idea of something you want to do. A good example of that was in the astrobiology community, where they managed to fund at least 2 big campaigns, one for looking at a meteorite site, impact site in Estonia, and a big campaign in Iceland. And there were lots of small funding schemes which you'd never heard of, which they got money from to get people to go and do that.
Thank you very much.
Yesterday, by the way, I also heard the European Astrobiology Institute, which is our sister, if you like, or brother, or I don't know, partner, whatever you want to call us. They're publishing a book of science fiction stories from the community. They raised the funding from that by crowdfunding. They raised 36,000 Canadian dollars by crowdfunding from 600 different individuals. So, you know, we need to look at things, be imaginative in those sort of things as well. So, you know, you might well raise some of that money by a crowdfunding initiative. And that looks brilliant if you're applying for a fellowship or something. If you say, well, you know, I couldn't find any way of doing this, so I was imaginative enough to stick it up, and then I managed to get some people to fund me and so on. Anything like that, which you do, you'll be surprised. But they also really look good when it looks like you've gone out and really hunted to get some money, put it together, you've delivered it. That tells the referees, yes, this is a person who has got some creative ideas, and persuade people of the benefit of those ideas.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Catherine asks, what is the best way to find a mentor?
Well, I think the answer to that is, again, it's a little bit of chicken and egg, and it depends where you are. If you are in a big research group, or you're part of, say one of the larger communities, the French, the UK, the German communities, Italian communities, then talk to your colleagues. Your mentor cannot be your boss. Your mentor cannot be somebody you are working for, or really are partnering, because as I said, your mentors need to be your critical friend. They need to tell you what you can't do as well as what you can do. They are not your drinking friend. They have to take on a serious role. What Europlanet does, however, is if you ask for that, that we will look for a suitable mentor. We will look at what you're looking to do. We will look at your CV, and we will see what of the mentors that we have will be appropriate. So you can go through that route to the Europlanet scheme. And you have different mentors for different things. I still have mentors. But what I ask my mentors to do now is very different, of course, from what I was looking at my mentors to do 10 or 15 years ago. Some of my mentors are related to management and engagement with politicians, engagement with funding council leaders. I even have one who mentored me on how to talk to members of the UK Parliament. Next question.
So Shirrup, sorry if I pronounce it not correctly. He says, thanks Nigel for the talk. How are you planning to accommodate engineering projects or candidates with engineer background only?
Why would you think that there needs to be any difference? Engineers are a vital part of planetary science. We don't build any of our instruments without engineers. Engineers, yeah, I mean, you're not different from anybody from others. Maybe your career path might be slightly different, and you probably be closer to the industry base, and you may be working in the industry lines. Some of the skills that engineers have, I will be honest with you, I teach a course which includes project management, and that is things like PERT and Gantt charts and how you put together a program. Engineers are consistent, often they are much more involved in that kind of planning than, so we say, academia, where it really you don't really write down a time chart for what you're going to do in the week. You can't build instruments, you can't do that type of work with it. Some of the knowledge that you need to use, like for example, if you are designing a space mission, at the end of the day, we will, as academics, we will come up with a plan for the space mission, right? Once you start to design and build the instrument, the engineers, be they the software engineers or the hardware engineers of actually building it, there is an enormous amount of science. What materials do you use? What's the strength to weight ratio? These people are absolutely vital in the program. And then, of course, you have the project manager, who often is an engineer, who's got to try and keep us academics in line and say we've got to meet deadlines. And oh no, you can't. You can't have terabytes of data coming back over the uplink and the downlink, and no, you can't build it with, it can't be 100 kilograms. I'll give you, you often end up arguing about maybe 5 grams, right? So then you have to go to your engineers and you talk to them about new ways of configuring it and so on. It's a vital part. None of these missions happen without the strong engineering, and so they are a vital part of the planetary science program, and we need you to be part of Europlanet, because when we're talking about the development of the projects, we need engineers involved. So I don't see why you think you're different. I hope you don't feel you're different ultimately by the end of this meeting. So, as I say, nothing happens without the engineers.
I think, Nigel,
yep.
I think it's because maybe my career path is a bit different, because I think it is because when the presentations were made regarding funding opportunities, most of the opportunities recommendations were try to include as much space aspect possible.
Okay.
Yeah, so I understand that, but like.
Well, today stroke tomorrow, the Commission will launch its Horizon Europe programs in space, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you read those calls, 90% of them are engineering. 90%. And working with industry. So the academic side is a terrible minority of that. It's more appropriate to things like the Marie Curie and the ERC and those sorts of things. But if you look at the cause of the designs there, and yeah, we tend to, when we talk about the fellowship calls and so on, we tend to focus, if you're perhaps on those people following the academic route. I think you're probably right there, group, and it's probably something we should remember not to do, not to get sucked into the fact that we're preparing fellowships for people who are only going to be like us, me. But don't forget, there are different panels under all of those calls. There are engineering panels, and maybe you'll be looking to write to an engineering panel rather than writing to a physics or a chemistry panel. Okay, then you look at the people on the engineering panels, and you look about there, and there will be ones there who are doing space related things, right? I know somebody who got a fellowship on thruster technology, not through that, they got that through the engineering panel. And it was all about ion beam thrusters, and that's the reason I was involved, was because it was about some xenon technology, so and so on. So yeah, you're probably right that perhaps maybe we need to bear in mind that we think about writing to physics and chemistry panels because they're the ones that say astrochemistry, astrobiology, and space. But engineering is there as well. But that would mean that you probably need a slightly different mentor. Your mentor should come by somebody in the space industry. I was reading last night of a person here in the UK who started off as a school teacher, then went and did his PhD, and is now head of teaching aerospace engineering at Bristol. Very interesting person's career, and he was explaining how he'd come and done it and what he'd learned and so on doing it. So there are certainly those sort of things there as well. And there are some fellowship schemes for engineers, certainly in the UK, and I know in Germany. I'm sure they exist in France as well, but I don't know, and other countries. So if you wanted to talk to me about that, I'm happy to pick that up. But I think you've made a good point that maybe perhaps in some of our presentations we tend to forget, although that's very important, we perhaps don't say enough about it. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Nigel. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
You got my email. Interestingly, the person I'm mentoring is an engineer in Portugal who is working, he's been working all his career in the engineering, but actually wants to get more into the basic science, to understand the basic science as an engineer. He said, I know how to do my bit. I don't understand the science well enough. So what he wants to do is to sort of kind of like he wants to get more into the understanding some of the basic science to reflect on his engineering, not just be the person who comes along and says, okay, I need to design it this way. He wants to understand the science better, but he's coming through an engineering route. And he's one of the reasons for what he wanted to do is apply for one of the ESA fellowships to do that, to embed himself within the ESA, where he won't just be an engineer, but he'll be meeting with the people who are talking about the science, because he's kind of he's doing the engineering, and he's very good at building the engineering stuff, but he wants to understand why they want to, what the science is, the buzzwords he's hearing, he doesn't know that. Okay, any more?
Thank you very much for discussing this very important topic. Just the last one, Nigel. Arnaud asks if he could have your email address.
Anybody could have my email address. It's very simple, n.j.mason@kent.ac.uk. You'll find it easily enough.
I can also...
Very happy, as I say, I won't guarantee, well, I won't answer all your questions because I won't be able to, but I can pass you on to perhaps people who can, and I'll certainly be willing to do that. So feel free to contact me. It's not a problem.
Thank you very much, Nigel.
Nigel, sorry, somebody just posted your open.
No, that's the old one. I'm not there anymore.
Okay, good.
I'll post it in now. Don't use that
Thanks.
one. It does get redirected, but I don't look at my open one every day, so don't look at that one. That's an old one.
Excuse me.
It's all right, Baptiste. All right. Thank you very much, Nigel. We will meet Nigel again after lunch.
You should. I'm joining you at 1:30 my time. Is that right? 2:30 your time.
1:30 your time should be 2:30 our time. So yeah, that's
okay.
Right.
And I'm just going to do a quick thing on how to do your CV.
Thank you very much.
I will send you. I'll send you the. I'll send you the those sort of short slides for the writing a fellowship.
Yeah.
I'll forward those to you in a minute.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good. See you later.
See you later. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Nigel.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
All right, so we can move to the presentation of the working groups. I hope all the chairs of the working groups are here. We will go following the order of our manifesto. So the first working group to be introduced is the IPEC Annual Week Working Group. I didn't really prepare a slide for this because I don't think they're needed. So as you can guess, organizing the annual week is organizing this. So you have to contact the speakers, and after you have the confirmations, prepare a program that has sessions that make sense together. So for instance, the funding session, the industry session, or you can really do whatever you want. Now, for the next year, the annual week is already prepared, but I still need help. So if you're interested in helping and organizing also the next annual weeks after the one in Padua, please join us. And of course, there is a variety of things to be organized. This year, the event is virtual, but when it's in person, of course, we have to organize the venue, book the hotel. So make sure that all the rooms are the same with 2 single beds and so on. And it has to be close to the venue, but within the budget. So it's a bit complex to organize. So the more we are, the better it will be. And also we have to organize the coffee breaks and the social event. There is a lot to do. And I would be really, really happy if some of you would be interested to join me and the future chair that will come after me. That could be you. So just, if you're interested in this, volunteer, and I will be more than happy to tell you my experience. And yeah, you can be the future of the IPEC annual weeks. Now, since we are running a little late, I will stop here. And I invite you, wait a second. Yeah, IPEC at EPSC. So Noah, are you online?
I'm ready to go.
Great.
All right, I made some slides to show you all the fun that we have at the EPSC in person. Now, so yeah, my name is Noah. I'm the chair of the IPEC at EPSC working group. And I just have here some pictures from the last in-person meeting that was in Geneva. That was 2019. So you have like here on the top left and the bottom right, you have like the crew, let's say, from back in the day. So what we do is we organize all kinds of things. Like we organize short courses. We make sure that there's like an early career booth so that everybody who comes to like the meeting can actually like all the early careers, or even worse, people who have never been to a conference can come in and see, oh, early career booth and say hi. So this is was a lot of fun and was a huge success as well. And you see, for example, here is Jose sitting, talking, and he actually ended up joining our working group after this conference because he had just too much fun. So that's a plus. We also have like fun stuff. So we organized the science flash here. Like here on the bottom left, you also see like a presenter, and yes, he's actually having a box on his head. That was part of the Schroeder's cat analogy that he compared his work to. So that was a lot of fun. We also had like a discovery challenge, which is a bit like maybe, you know, there's a murder game where you have to find a certain person, but it was more scientific. So that was also quite cool. We had those like buttons for team building, so that you could like find other early career people easily by like wearing the button. And as I said, like we had lots of different short courses and also like over about mental health. And we had like science communication. I think this was a spokesperson from ESA. And never forget, we always have a social event, and this was here with lots and lots and lots of karaoke. So yeah, that was really great. Now, how do we continue? Wait, for people who haven't like noticed, right? The objective, what's our objective? We try to make as attractive and a diverse program as we can during each EPSC for early careers, very important. Now, how did we do it last year and how we're gonna do it this year? And we'll see next year's maybe hybrid, maybe in person, we'll see. So instead of having an in-person booth, we had an early career Slack with a booth channel and people could ask questions, and it was like quite a high success of the Slack. I think in the end, we almost had like 160 or more people on there. Social event was of course over Zoom back then, and this year we tried to do it over Wonder or like another platform, Kumo Space. New this year, we also tried to make a quiz to have like more fun events. Then on the bottom left, you see mentoring. I should have mentioned that before. We also we make sure that we can connect people. It's a different mentoring that Nigel mentioned. It's really a mentoring at EPSC for early careers. So if for those people who have never been there, get like their own mentor just for EPSC, really just for the conference. And we actually keep doing that. And Zay is actually in charge of this. Then the short courses, they will again be held over Zoom. Then the Science Flash was also quite fun last year. It was a bit different, like it's difficult to organize a Science Flash if you can't bother people into presenting, but it worked out. And also new this year, we're trying to have like a lounge that Shrirup is actually on to organize. Also using Wonder, like something similar we have for the coffee breaks, so that early careers can just meet up anytime and talk and yeah, just connect. And we also have like a web page, which we tend to update like once a year. So behind the scene, I think I already talked. I think I jumped this honestly because I think I already talked most through most what's important. And this year we again have like a big program of like the recurring General Assembly. And then we organize some short courses, and some other short courses are actually organized by other working groups. So I think I'll stop now because we're short on time. And I'll give the word to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Noah. So the next working group is New Frontiers. I'm the chair of New Frontiers, but for two reasons, today Jean Schmidt will take over. First reason is because I was organizing the annual week, so I couldn't really focus on this presentation. And the second is that Jean and I just won the transnational access and we'll go to Botswana in October. So he has a lot of things to tell you, even though he has to be short. Are you here, Jean?
Yeah, I'm here.
That's great. You can share your screen if you want.
Okay.
I'll leave the space to you.
Everybody can see?
Yeah, I just want to correct because Fulvio Franchi is not in APEC anymore as he is a professor, so he's not an
Yeah.
So just
but I left the name because he's kind of the person who founded the Fulvio. He actually, I think for 5 or 6 years he's been in Botswana. Maybe it's 6 years now. Anyways, this working group is about expanding the early careers here in Europe, to do collaborations, outside of Europe is like the main goal, and to create like a type of synergies with other departments, particularly in countries that are still developing. So obviously already countries like Canada, the United States have strong collaborations with Europe, but yeah, like put in Africa right now, for these past couple of years, Africa has been really growing. So we focus a lot on these countries like Botswana, Ethiopia, but also in Chile and Argentina, places like this. And so yeah, like the vision is just to promote science and collaborations amongst us with people like us, but in these developing countries. And in this way, they can also get a early careers in these other countries, can get a small foothold with groups in Europe. And obviously, as Nigel talked a lot about already, is these field sites, particularly Botswana and in Ethiopia, but I'll get into those in a second. And yeah, I kind of went over these already. For example, there's this Africa Initiative for Planetary and Space Sciences. And this is just one of many. There's a link here in the corner if somebody wants to write this down. Just one of many places, like especially in Africa, where it's really developing these opportunities. As Nigel already talked about, there's the transnational access. But there's also TAs in countries that aren't what we would technically call like a new frontier country, So there's also kind of like these countries also have space agencies, like also Ethiopia, for example, has a space agency. And you kind of have to be careful because they also are a little protective, like like the Europeans entering these growing places, But if you go about it in the way that you want to help, where it's not just like you're being selfish to take, they're genuinely pretty open to work with people from Europe. And for example, I've been talking with a geologist, a structural geologist from Ethiopia. And if you go about it in the way that, they're the leader of the project and you're just there to contribute, as opposed, then it's correct, as opposed to, you're trying to like take over, So you have to be careful, So this is a picture of one of the sites in Ethiopia. This is inside of a crater. And there's like a hydrothermal spring underneath. And they found some microbial life. And so this is a great analogy, a great analog for places like this on Mars that maybe, had springs, and maybe there was life type of thing. And yeah, like I was kind of mentioning, for example, in Ethiopia, it's a totally different culture. It was never fully colonized, so it's not like they have aspects of the Western world, but also, it's really different. It's quite isolated, and but if you're genuine and respectable, I mean, they can read the atmosphere, Yeah, and the paperwork and documents obviously goes by. Actually, I'm American. I've been living in Italy for about 5 years now, and yeah, paperwork to go abroad it can be really complicated. in Botswana, we have a great already. We have a great what could I say? A great link, you know, because Fluvio is already there, and Fluvio is pretty nice. I mean, you could write to, and anybody could write to him, you know, and he could give you ideas, you know. But that's one place to start, you know, is because we already have a strong friend there, you know. And this slide is just talking about how these countries are developing. This I put some images here about these. This is one of the TA sites in Botswana in these salt pans, which it was, you know, I think about 100,000 years ago was a lake, and then some things due to the East African rift, the water that was feeding this lake got cut off, so the river was diverted in a different way, and over time, this lake evaporated, left behind all these interesting minerals. In the bottom right corner is a place on Mars, which we think is quite identical.
Jean, we're a bit late, so please.
Okay, I'm gonna go super fast. Here's just another pan, a picture of the pan. This is from Fluvio's paper. So yeah, this is a problem that we're having right now, is the length of time that Erica and I are having to organize the time that you have to do something. And also this was touched on when they were talking about the Marie Curie Fellowship, is you have to also, when you write a proposal for something like this, you have to not promise a bunch of stuff, like really be honest with yourself about what you can really accomplish. These are just all the members of the International Astronomical Union. And Erica is really the main person to contact about this working group, but you can also write to me. And if you want to join this working group, we could really use the help. We're also looking for a new a new leader of the group, because Erica has already been doing this, I think, 3 years. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Sorry we had a short time, but during the brainstorming, we can further explain to you our ideas, and you can choose if you want to join us. And yeah, it's true, we are looking for a co-chair. I think I did my time, and it's time for new energies and new ideas. So now let's move on to the next working group, which is future research. Baptiste?
Yes, Hans will share the slides. Yes, Hans, if you can share your screen.
Let me, I'll get the slides.
Thank you.
Just a second. So just check you see my slide.
Yep.
Yes, it's okay, it works.
Okay, thank you. So hello, my name is Hans, and I'm here to introduce the Future Research Working Group. So we want to get early career researchers to the front line of new science opportunities. What does that mean? We are interested to answer questions like, what will the future of planetary science look like? What's the path to success of a new planetary science mission? How are recent trends changing the way planetary science works? These are the kind of questions we're interested in our working group. So our goal is to shed a light on the diversity of opportunities for future research, help early career researchers understand the process of developing future research, and prepare the early career researchers to play a part in this future of planetary science. Who are we? We currently have 5 members. There's Ottaviano, Desh, Baptiste, Nandita, and myself. And of course, you, if you're interested, you could also be a part of our working group. What do we practically do? Pre-pandemic, we were aiming to have 2 activities per year, so one at EPSC and one at the EPEC Yearly Week. And with activities, I mean activities that are for all the EPEC members. Besides these activities, we also write articles about these topics that we're interested in. And right now we are meeting about once a month to keep our activities going. What are the kind of things that we've done in the past? Our first activity was at EPSC 2 years ago. We had a guest talk by Jacob Deller. He's an early career researcher, and he led himself F-class mission proposal. And he told us about that experience from his point of view as an early career researcher. Last year, we were quite focused on Voyage 2050. That's an ESA call to select new science topics for the period 2035-2050, and ESA was collecting white papers to select those science topics, and we interviewed a couple of early career researchers that were proposing white papers themselves as a lead author. And we also spoke to Blue Origin and a company working and a research institute working with Blue Origin to learn about what these new space companies could mean for planetary science. And we wrote an article about that you can read on our website. I think now Baptiste will take over for the last part and tell you what we're doing this year.
Yes, just quickly, we lead the 2 interviews the last weeks, and that we are transcribed. We are doing the transcription right now, so they will be published on the website of EPEC soon. One of Tanya Harrison, who are working at Planet Company, and the other one of Bo Bierhaus, who are working at Lockheed Martin. Next slide, please. We are also doing a poll about the subject, the topic that can concern us, and about the question, what would you do if you left academia? So maybe you already answer it. If you do not, I invite you to do. I will give you the link in the discussion. Right now, it seems that it does not work, so we are looking to fix that. So the question is not if you have, even if you do not want to left academia, the idea is to think about that and to answer just one question. It's anonymous, so you are free to comment and to share with us your opinion of this. Next. And that's it. We can discuss about our activities on Thursday. We will be available, so don't hesitate. And even after on the Slack channel or during the week, if you have any question or by mail, feel free to contact us and feel free to come in this working group. We organize some meeting once a month, and we are dynamic. We are trying to go ahead in these questions. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much, both Hans and Baptiste, for this presentation. The next working group is the early career support.
Okay, thank you, Erika. I will be very brief. Well, I'm one of the people who remained in the group. This working group was intended to be support for all the other activities and early career in general, where we aim to provide basically sources to different fellowships, funding agencies, job opportunities, and so on. But with time, we are a group that disintegrated a bit, and some people moved to senior positions, and I myself really did not have time to engage with the group lately, because I'm also moving to different job, moved countries, and so on. So yeah, and another thing was that the early career support started being directly organized by the Europlanet itself. The Europlanet has early career training in the educational portal now. So basically the activities are overlapping. Now there is still a big need to have this space online where the early careers will have direct information approach, or a place where to find access to different calls, fellowships, job opportunities at one place under the Europlanet. So if any of you have the energy and motivation to start leading this group or to work directly with the Europlanet, I think now is the best time to jump in because the need is there. We don't have people, and everyone who was involved is kind of moving to the senior direction. So that would be perfect if there is an idea and enthusiasm from one of you, and you want to be in the chairing position of the group. That's all.
Thank you very much, Anna. So yeah, you have an opportunity to share your ideas about this working group and possibly to start leading it. So yeah, we can move to the next, which is outreach. Zach, Anastasia.
Hi, Erica. Hi, everyone. Yes. So I will share the screen now. Just. Give me a second.
Yeah, don't worry.
Actually, if it is possible to have another group to present, because it says something an update. So let me just.
If you want, you can send the presentation and
I will
share the screen, because I can't share my screen. It doesn't work.
But yes, in any case.
But it can.
Send me the presentation on the Slack, for example, if you can, and I will share it.
I think you can send files also here on Zoom.
Okay.
If you want, Anastasia, we can go with the next working group, so you have time to send the presentation and you'll be next.
Yes, please. Thank you, Erica.
So the next one is diversity. Rutu,
Yes.
you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I have presentation. It's gonna be really quick. I try to share the screen. Okay, there's a lot of things. Okay. Yeah, can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see the slides, but it's not in full. Yeah, okay.
Okay, there's still not. Right. Oops. Just a minute. Give me a minute. Yeah, I'll try to share it again. Yeah, can you see the full screen now, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, this is Rutu. I am currently the chair of EPLEC Diversity Working Group. So I think along with all these other working group, it was formed somewhere around like 2018, and I would say we are slowly progressing. So initially, we were also confused and a little bit lost to think in direction like what we can do as a diversity. So, diversity and inclusivity is like one of the most pressing issue within academics nowadays. So this is just, like a fun picture to show, like, especially in any industry or academics or research, we need to have, more diverse environment and more diverse researchers to to have a really successful, science results as an outcome. Like, any one component missing out of that can create, a lot of difference. So our idea is to try to create a more diverse and inclusive environment by, organizing various activities, various discussion sessions, different interviews, and sort of forward the message within the community, because I think there are still a lot of people who do not understand the concept of diversity, or we still have a lot of people, something called has experienced the unconscious biasing as well. So our major task is to build a future generation of scientists and researchers who themselves are aware of this diversity related issues, have a solution to those issues, and also sort of help to understand the issues within the research and academics. So with that idea, actually, we started this diversity group. So this is just more or less what I just summarized at the moment. It is, the diversity and inclusivity as a whole is such a huge concept that, to go all of them one by one within certain time limit is never a possible. And I mean, there are different entities of each issues. So it's like, we are trying to understand them it's not that we sort of address them all over at once. It's never gonna possible, because there are so many issues. But our idea is at least to start a discussion, or start to turn a wheel, and then maybe after 5 years or 10 years we will be able to reach up to a certain level where we can say that yes, we are able to achieve certain goals from our objectives. So far we have been like trying to involve ourselves in various international and national conferences. One of our first and also very successful, which I heard, a very successful interaction was a series which we launched in the year 2019, where we sort of, the series name was Motivation Journeys, and it's a YouTube series. So where we interviewed various scientists who come from different, I would say, whose upbringing was in different environment. They were of different gender, and now they are really respectable scientists in their own field. And then that's where the idea, and we sort of discussed their journey throughout in these series. So it's like 10 to 12 minutes sort of interview. But the idea was to, provide sort of motivation and inspiration to the next generation. I mean, being an early career, PhD graduates, someone like me, I always find an issue to, push myself. Like every morning, sometimes I wake up, I don't feel like to open my laptop. I don't have that sort of motivation or energy to justify like why I'm doing and am I good enough and what I'll do after PhD. So I'm sure I'm not the only one. We all have this issue. The previous generations of scientists also had the similar issue. In fact, I would say they might have even a little more, because during that time, they never had this kind of, discussion or forum to discuss or to look for any inspiration. So actually that was the idea behind having this season 1 of Motivation series. I think you can see now the screenshots. We also wanted to have the season 2. So actually what we did was, when we met in 2019 in Geneva, it was EPSC and DPS combined. So we sort of took these 8 interviews, and then we released them in 2020, once every month. Yeah, so that was the season 1. We also wanted to do a follow-up season, but since the travel restrictions was there, we sort of paused that idea. But I think now next year we will be resuming traveling. So now the season 2 we are planning to have a similar motivation interviews, but rather than to have an experienced scientist, we want to have the early careers who are really, in a good research position at the moment. And then we also want to hear from there. So is still like one of the ideas, and we are looking for participants and volunteers who can help us to organize this. Other than that, during the EPSC, we also sort of designed these badges, as you can see, these 2 badges to understand, the diversity within our community. And surprisingly, this was really appreciated. And, we were also see so many different speakers who belongs to various countries. So that also sort of help us to put the new perception of how important the language and the diversity issue can be in such a inclusive environment. And in EPA, in one of the I think EPEC so this actor in one of the EPEC, I think it was in Portugal, yeah, remember. In Portugal, we also discussed we also had a session on the inclusivity in science, where we represented different statistics on genders and how many gender and what kind of genders are involved in these activities, and why we sort of still have a gender gap, and what is the scenario within the underrepresented countries. So this was presented by one of our group member, Melinda Dosa. She did really wonderful job in that. So yeah, in a nutshell, as you can see, we have been associated with different activities so far, and we are also now planning one more session during upcoming EPSC. So at the moment, we have these all are our members who are involved in EPEC working group. It's as a working group, we all are volunteers. So it's not that we are always like, full on or full swing active. At times we try to conduct the session, and whosoever are available or who's so willing to, take up or help us, they are always welcome. So I would really happy to have new thoughts, new ideas on how we can achieve our goals. So you are always welcome to join our group. So I'll be available also on 10th June, which is on Thursday, from 12 to 5 o'clock. Other than that, of course, I'm always there on Slack, and you can also drop us an email on this epecdiversity@gmail.com. I think the good news, this EPEC and week is really on a perfect time, because we are now planning for one of the session for our upcoming EPSC virtual meeting. And yeah, it would be really nice to have new thoughts and new perception on that as well. And trust me, this is like one of the best environment I find, especially during a COVID, to network and communicate. I will, for example, it has helped me in so many ways. I can't even count, but the top of my head, one I can think of is I will soon start to submit my thesis, and of course I'm looking for postdoc opportunities. And these the people whom we interviewed during our motivation journey, I reach out to them and I just drop them and email that, hey, how are you? And I'm looking for something like this, and they were so happy to help, guide in any way they could. And I could reach to these people just because EPEC, so EPEC has provided such a wonderful platform where, we can interact and communicate with all members and scientists all over the world. Even despite of, COVID regulations, I could still always, sort of using like EPEC as a platform, we can always interact. So it has tremendously helped me throughout my journey, not in terms of just science, like improvising science, but also in terms of, opening new ideas and opening new horizons for me. So whosoever has any idea or whosoever is interested, please reach out to us. There is also the link I've provided. And even if you need a little bit more clarity, just write to me. And yeah, I'm happy to answer. We are also looking for new co-chairs as well, because sometimes the work is a little bit more for one person to handle. So yeah, all the new volunteers, members, co-chairs, whosoever are interested, they are always welcome. And yeah, we are happy to.
Thank you, Ruth. So we are a bit late, so I'm sorry I have to interrupt you.
No problem.
I'm receiving some messages stating that people are getting hungry. So Anastasia, are you ready? We're almost done, by the way. Just
and I can share my screen. It's working now, so I will be as fast as I can. Just let me know if you can see everything, and I can start. So
yeah.
Hi again, my name is Anastasia, and we are leading together with Zach now, who will talk in a bit, the outreach group. And I just want to say very briefly that very recently, the other co-chair was Peter, who is not anymore, but just a big thanks to him because he was very supportive and helpful. So he's not anymore, but I just wanted to say it. And then we have like other members in the team. So it's a quite small team at the moment, and we are encouraging more people to come because pretty much our group is more about sharing practices, talking about outreach, and I think it has a lot of fun as well. So let me just mention the two objectives of the group. So first of all, the main idea is to encourage and support the young researchers community to do outreach, because usually most researchers and scientists don't do outreach, so they don't have also the opportunities, they lack the knowledge or the strategies. So the main idea here is to support this concept of doing outreach, and then also share and exchange some practices, some things that work, some things that don't work from our experience in outreach. Now, we have started, like all other groups, immediately after the first EPEC meeting. And the ideas were for this group to establish a place where we can all share our results of activities that we do in outreach, and also establish our presence in different media and social media. Then we discussed that it's a good place to collect and share material for outreach events like schools, for example, and then also share some events or organizations that can be helpful for outreach. Now, the two first are accomplished, so we managed to have this place where we can share our activities. And also we are quite present in media, in the Europlanet media, and the social media that the communications group is helping. And then the other activity that we are currently also interested in leading is collecting and sharing material for schools or other outreach events. So this has started, but we really want your help on that, because we know there are already resources out there, but we don't want to duplicate and have a waste of resources. So our highlights, I will give like 1 minute to Zach here to just share his experience, is our inspiring stories of the month, where this is already 2.5 years in operation, and we have roughly 30 different stories. And actually, this is something you can also do, or you can read to get ideas on how to do outreach. There are different ways, different places. We have diversity of people doing it, activities, diversity of audiences. So you can very quickly, by reading one story, get an idea. Zach, would you like just to say something here?
Yeah, just I think doing outreach is probably one of the most rewarding things that's come out of my PhD, and reading all these inspiring stories from other people is great. It's a great place to see where you can start. There might be I think there's a big barrier if you've never done outreach before. It might seem really daunting, but you read some of these stories about people in similar stages of their career. They've done these amazing projects and organize them themselves. And I think it's really, yeah, it is inspiring. You can do these things yourself. And we're here to help you write these stories as well. If you've done a project, but you don't know really how to put it into words or how it would best be presented, just give me an email. You don't have to have something finished and written. Send us an email and we can work through it together and yeah, share your story with everyone.
Great. Yes, and as Zach mentioned, you don't need to have experience on writing your story. You can just write some bullet points or something, draft a document, and definitely you will get some feedback from us. And finally, you will find us also in media and social media. You can get more information from the general webpage of the PECA outreach group for our activities. As I said, the current activity is to collect this material because we have already some things, and this is really important for the rest of the community because we want to support as many people as possible to do outreach. So you don't need to prepare something. If you have heard of someone, of a colleague or, you know, like a fellow that has something, just send us and an email, and we'll be very happy to get your material. Now, I don't want to delay more. You will hear more from me during the day. So thanks again, and thanks, Erica.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're really late. I don't want to interrupt you, but it is what it is. So we just we missed just 2 working groups, communications and finances. I will just say a couple of quick words about finances because Joanna can't be there today, and she's the chair, and also I believe the only member at the moment of the working group. So finances usually has the goal to facilitate budget-related processes. So for instance, if I'm organizing the annual week and at the end of the annual week, the participants have to be reimbursed for the travel expenses, the finances working group would be the one helping this process. If you want to join, if you have new ideas on what this working group could do, please gather together and just find new ideas because Joanna is alone and she is currently submitting her PhD thesis. So she's really, really busy. So the future of this working group is basically in your hands and you can contact Joanna anytime. And now we'll move to the communications working group, which is the last one, and then we can go have lunch. Is Fivos here or someone else? No. Okay, probably there was some no connection problem. So I would say let's go to lunch and we resume after lunch. And if Fivos is here, he can present the communications working group before we begin with the other talks. Maybe if you can try to connect 5 minutes in advance, that would be great so that Fivos has time to show you some things. And have a nice lunch. If you want, you can also have lunch together on Wonder. I need to go get lunch, so I can't be there for the first 20 minutes. We come back at 2:30.
Just a little question.
Yeah.
Because at 2:30 we should, I guess Nigel wants to start.
Yeah.
And we couldn't really discuss if anybody has like a question about the working groups. Can I suggest that if people are interested, then I will just be in Wonder, like starting, I guess, around 2 o'clock. So if people want to talk about with working group chairs, just meet up in Wonder before.
Yes, thank you, Noah. That's a great idea. So let's try to be here 5 minutes in advance also for the communications working group. And I'm really sorry that I'm still in time from your lunch. So have a nice lunch and I'll see you later.